An immortal cultivator clan cannot become arrogant. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 The Affected 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation. Ling Youdao raised his fist and shouted loudly, "No matter who it is, as long as they want to destroy my Cangli Ling family, we will never agree. All the clansmen will follow me to defend the family." Ling Youdao and Mu Yanren's wedding robes changed instantly and were replaced with the robes they usually wear. Ling Dingshan, Mu Yanren and more than 300 people followed Ling Youdao out of the main courtyard, rushed out of the 7th room and headed straight for the battlefield. Ling Yuansheng flew to the newly built courtyard on the other side of the top of Qingkang Mountain, found Mu Yu, and said, "Friend Mu Dao, the foreign enemy is attacking. I hope you will keep your promise." Hearing this, Mu Yu nodded and said, "I, Mu Yu, have always kept my promise. Since I have promised you, I will never break my promise." After that, he sacrificed his flying sword and jumped up, following Ling Yuansheng to the battlefield on the edge of the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation. The 9 camps are also 9 battlefields. There are more than 100 people in each battlefield. The sound of magic tools colliding, spells bombarding, and fighting is deafening. Ling Yuansheng is getting more and more anxious. Outside the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation, a blue beam of light stood in each camp. There were 9 camps, so there were 9 blue beams of light. Then the 9 blue beams of light suddenly turned in the air and gathered at the top of Qingkang Mountain, forming a large blue-white sphere. A white beam as thick as a thigh shot out from the large blue-white sphere, and the white beam went straight down and hit the light curtain of the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit Formation. The 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation burst out with a brilliant yellow light, easily blocking the white beam. Magical instruments flew everywhere, talismans attacked continuously, and from time to time, a dying wail could be heard. Ling Yuangu and others fought hard against the people of Fufang Jin's family, and finally killed them back. At this time, he had time to carefully look at the white beam of light hitting the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit Formation, frowning and looking gloomy. What kind of formation is this? It can actually suppress the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation. As the foundation building elder of Cangli Ling's family, he knew best how powerful the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation was. Ling Yuangu clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, "Before, they have been surrounding but not attacking. It seems that they are preparing for it. It is really a deep calculation and a scheming mind." The 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Formation is a 3rd-level lower-grade formation comparable to an ordinary 3rd-level middle-grade formation. Before Zhuangjia and Ling Jixin broke through, this was the biggest reliance of the Cangli Ling family to resist the 9 families. It must not be lost. The word 7 Absolutes in this formation means that there are only 7 ways out of the formation, and these 7 ways out of the formation are extremely dangerous. Various attacks emerge in an endless stream, almost 7 ways to die. Of course, this is an exaggeration by the creator of the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Formation, and it should not be taken seriously, but it is definitely dangerous. It is impossible for ordinary cultivators to withstand these endless attacks, let alone escape from the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Formation. The word soul sealing only means that this formation can suppress the cultivation of those who enter the formation. Generally, when a key training cultivator enters this formation, he will be suppressed to only about 30% of his cultivation. When a foundation building cultivator enters this formation, he will be suppressed to only about 60% of his cultivation. Even a powerful Jindan Clan can only exert 70% to 90% of his cultivation. What a terrifying suppression. Although the 9 families have twice as many key training cultivators as the Cangli Ling family, and 18 foundation building cultivators, their strength exceeds that of the current Cangli Ling family. Once they fall into the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation, they will inevitably be killed and defeated. For this reason, the 9 families only surrounded the top of Qingkang Mountain, but did not launch an attack. It seems that they want to exhaust the people of the Cangli Ling family through the siege, but in fact it is a deliberate illusion. The purpose is to paralyze the people of the Cangli Ling family. Fortunately, under the eyes of the Cangli Ling family, this large formation that can affect the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Formation was arranged. The plan of the Fufang Jin family was successful, and the Cangli Ling family did not discover it. allowing them to successfully arrange this formation. Ling Youdao and others were deployed to support different battlefields. The battle against the Fufang Jin family was the most important, so he personally brought dozens of Kigan practitioners to support Ling Yuangu. There were more than 30 corpses on the ground, half of which were from the Cangli Ling family. The living Kigan practitioners were also brought along, and they took out the healing pills, sat cross-legged on the spot, and refined the pills to restore their bodies. Ling Yuangu and Ling Yaoxin stood aside, guarding the family members and healing the seriously injured. Ling Youdao walked up to Ling Yuangu and asked, "Grandpa, what's the situation? Youdao, where's your grandpa? Is he here?" "Grandpa has gone to find Grandpa Mu and will be here soon." "Okay, with the three of us in the late Foundation establishment stage, we will definitely be able to defeat the people of Fufang Jin's family." Immediately, he sighed slightly and said, "Alice, it's also our fault that we were not cautious enough. We allowed the enemy to set up a large formation right under our noses." Ling Youdao pointed to the large blue and white sphere in the sky and asked, "Grandpa, are you talking about this?" "Yes, I don't know what formation this is. It can greatly reduce the soul-sealing effect of the 7 absolute soul-sealing formation. The key cultivating cultivators who rush in now can only exert 70% of their cultivation strength at most, while the Foundation establishment cultivators can at least exert 80% of their cultivation strength. The cultivators in the late Foundation establishment stage are almost unaffected." Ling Yuansheng and Mu Yu came on their swords. After they put away their flying swords and landed on the ground, they walked to the few people. Ling Yuansheng said, "The most urgent task is to destroy the formation base, otherwise the 9 families will continue to charge into the formation." Ling Yuangu and the other 2 nodded, agreeing with Ling Yuansheng's words. "Fifth brother, we all listen to you." Before Ling Yuangu finished speaking, the light curtain of the formation flickered, and the people of Fufang Jins rushed in again. Compared with the last time, this lineup was even stronger, with 4 foundation building cultivators alone, and no less than 200 key training cultivators. They gathered together and rushed into the formation, like a sharp knife tearing a hole in the body of Cangli Lings. Seeing this, Ling Yuangu was instantly furious. Ling Yuangu said angrily, "You really treat my Cangli Ling as a soft persimmon." Immediately, he formed a seal, and a golden light flashed in front of him. The golden eagle sword chopped at the people of Fufang Jins with a red gold light. At the front of the team, Jindan Clan sneered and offered a black cane, which knocked the golden eagle sword away. The golden eagle sword circled in the air for several times and returned to Ling Yuangu's hand. Ling Yuansheng said softly, "The Fufang Jin family is attacking at this time, and the camp must be weak. We can take this opportunity to sneak in and destroy the formation base. That being said, there must be foundation building cultivators guarding the Fufang Jin family camp, and there must be no shortage of key training cultivators. Who should we send?" Ling Yuansheng stroked his beard, his face calm, but his eyes were full of determination. "I'll go myself." Chapter 152 Burning Lifespan to kill a cultivator in the late foundation building stage. Ling Yuansheng did not fly directly to the Fufang Jin's camp outside the formation, but flew back a distance first, then flew back to the Fufang Jin's camp outside the formation. Looking at Ling Yuansheng flying away, Jindan Clan was puzzled. What is Ling Yuansheng doing? But he did not think much about it, and instantly focused his attention on the battlefield. Ling Yuangu controlled the golden eagle sword, Jindan Clan held the ink-colored crutch, and the 2 late-stage foundation building cultivators fought together. Ling Youdao pointed his sword forward, and the broken water sword behind him instantly flew out, stabbing at Jindan Clan, who was in the middle stage of foundation building with a sharp sword energy. He forged an innate sword foundation. Although he had just built his foundation, his strength was comparable to that of an ordinary mid-stage foundation building cultivator. Ling Yuangu knew that even if he was not Jindan Clan's opponent, he could definitely hold out against him for a while, and when Ling Yuansheng destroyed the formation base and returned, he would be safe, so he was not worried about Ling Yaoxin. Ling Youdao made a spell, a blue light flashed, and the black umbrella opened instantly, floating above his head. A green light flashed, and a 3-foot flying sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Relying on the second-level lower-grade defensive spiritual weapon Black Umbrella, he directly killed Jindan Clan with his sword. Jindan Clan has been building his foundation for many years and is a cultivator who is about to enter the middle stage of foundation building. His strength is very strong in the early stage of foundation building. Ling Yuangu didn't know the situation of Ling Youdao's foundation building, so he was most worried about him. Jindan, who was in the late stage of foundation building, sacrificed a dark green longsword, looked at Yu and said dimly, "Old man, you are about to die, it is better not to get involved in this matter." Hearing this, Yu was not angry, but laughed, "Although I am not far from death, I am still more than enough to deal with you." "Huh? Shameless." Jindan swung his sword, and a dark green swordlight slashed towards Yu. Yu smiled, made a spell with his hand, and a spiritual power shield appeared instantly, protecting him inside. The dark green sword slashed at the spiritual shield, making a boom sound and creating a spark. Yu asked calmly with a smile, "How is it?" "Am I okay?" Jindan, staring at Yu, was slightly surprised. What a powerful old man. He is about to die, but he can still burst out with such powerful strength. A cultivator is still immortal. When he is close to the end of his life, the blood and ki in his body will drop sharply. More than 10 years ago, the blood and ki in Yu's body were still slowly decreasing, but in the past 2 or 3 years, his blood and ki have really dropped sharply. Of course, Jindan did not use his full strength, and just now he was just testing, but even so, he felt it was difficult. "Old man, it's just the beginning." As he said that, he quickly changed his hands, formed a complicated seal, and then hit the dark green longsword fiercely. Suddenly, a faint black and green color intertwined, and the size of the long sword slowly grew, releasing a murderous aura. Yu was slightly startled and also formed a seal. A red light shot out from behind him. The red light gathered above his head and formed a round cauldron with 4 legs, 2 ears, and mysterious runes engraved all over its body. On top of the cauldron was a beast head furnace cover. The appearance of the virtual cauldron made such a big noise that everyone on the battlefield saw it. Ling Youdao was startled. "This is..." Ling Youdao was also startled. "This is Grandpa's." Those who had seen Ling Yuansheng sacrifice the virtual cauldron couldn't help but wonder why Yu could also sacrifice the virtual cauldron. Judging from the aura it exuded, it was almost the same as the aura of the virtual cauldron sacrificed by Ling Yuansheng. The virtual cauldron flew out and hit Jindan. Jindan controlled the enlarged dark green longsword to chop at the virtual cauldron. The virtual cauldron seemed illusory and would collapse at the touch, but it managed to withstand the slash of the dark green sword. The cauldron and the sword both trembled. Yu's magic formula changed, and the cover of the virtual cauldron flew up. The mouth of the cauldron shone on the dark green sword, and countless air currents rushed into the virtual cauldron, and the dark green sword was also moving slowly. "Not good," Jindan shouted, trying to recall his sword. But he still failed. The big sword kept getting smaller. With a swoosh sound, the sword was put into the virtual cauldron, and the flying furnace cover was closed with a clang. "Want to swallow my flying sword? How can it be so easy?" I saw a green sword shadow rushing in the virtual cauldron. The virtual cauldron was constantly changing its shape, convex, concave, and stretched. Yu's face was solemn, and Jindan's face was even more solemn than his. At this moment, both sides used their full strength. After a dozen breaths, the big cauldron suddenly exploded. Puff, Yu and Jindan spit out blood at the same time. The two immediately tapped their bodies a few times, forcibly supporting their bodies from falling. There were many red illusory fragments in the sky, which gradually faded until they disappeared. The azure flying sword that broke through the virtual cauldron also dimmed, and had fallen from the original high-grade spiritual weapon to a low-grade spiritual weapon, and was even about to fall below the spiritual weapon level. There were many people in the Fufang Jin family. Jindan pointed at several late-stage key training cultivators next to him and said sternly, "You guys go up and kill that old thing." Hearing this, several people felt their legs go soft, and they were shocked and terrified. That was a foundation-building cultivator. Rushing up would be courting death. Seeing that several people disobeyed his orders, Jindan was angry and said angrily, "What? Do you want to disobey my orders and betray the family?" Several people waved their hands repeatedly and said in panic, "No. No, no, we will go now." Seeing that several people hesitated and took a long time to walk 4 or 5 steps, Jindan said, "What are you afraid of? That old thing is no longer good. I will protect you from behind. You just go ahead." Hearing this, several people became a little bolder, holding the magic weapon in both hands and slowly approaching Yu. Ling Youdao was worried and couldn't help shouting, "Grandpa, be careful." He wanted to save Yu, but he was restrained by Jin Mingking and couldn't split his attention. Looking at the people holding swords, Yu said coldly, Are you not afraid of death? I am a late-stage foundation building cultivator. Killing you is just like crushing an ant. As soon as he finished speaking, a late-stage key training cultivator probably collapsed. He held the sword, pointed the tip at Mu Yu, closed his eyes, and stabbed him with a roar. Squeak, his hands were shaking too much? The sword was originally aimed at Mu Yu's chest, but it passed through his arm. The man cried with joy, he's dead. Let's kill him quickly, kill him quickly. Hearing this, the people behind him gritted their teeth and rushed towards Mu Yu. Mu Yu snorted coldly, as if a flame was burning, and the momentum around him instantly increased, and soon returned to the period of full victory. With a wave of his hand, the people who rushed over were directly slapped several feet away. His figure was as fast as lightning, and he came close to Jindan in an instant, and hit him on the chest with a palm with a red glow. Puff, looking at Mu Yu, Jindan said unwillingly, burn your lifespan. Chapter 153 Destroying the Formation Base, the two heroes of Cangli. Ling Yuansheng quietly sneaked into the Fufang Jin's camp outside the formation, and the patrolling Fufang Jin's children did not find him at all. Before he arrived at a blue light column, he sacrificed a long sword, and the long sword drew a residual shadow, slashing at the blue light column standing in the center of the camp. Foundation building monk, the sudden fluctuation of spiritual energy attracted Jindan's attention. He jumped up, formed seals with his hands, and a shield with spiritual power appeared in front of him. Clang, squeak, 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 the flying sword slashed on the spiritual shield, and the spiritual shield shook, and dense cracks appeared. With a bang, the spiritual shield shattered instantly and slowly disappeared in the sunlight. Jindan was shaken several feet away before he slowly stabilized his body. He sacrificed a flying sword and stared at the front with a serious expression. In the distance, a virtual tripod came quickly and hit Jindan holding the sword directly. Feeling the terrifying momentum brought by the void tripod, Jindan was shocked. Knowing that he was no match for it, he immediately dodged to the side. The void tripod did not chase him and smash it, but smashed it on the blue light column. Boom, the void tripod was bounced 10 feet away, and the vertical blue light column trembled, alternating between light and dark, as if it would go out in the next moment. Not good, we must not let him destroy the formation base of the formation, Jindan shouted sternly. Quick, protect the formation base of the formation. Hearing this, more than 30 Kigan cultivators from the Fufang Jin family rushed to the vertical blue light column, holding magic tools to surround the blue light column, staring at the surroundings with vigilance, and a steady stream of Kigan cultivators rushed to the blue light column. After a while, a red light flashed, and a figure stood in front of everyone with his hands covered. The void tripod flew to his head and slowly rotated. Looking at the newcomer, Jindan gnashed his teeth and said, Ling Yuansheng, you dare to come here in person, you are really courting death? Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng stroked his beard and said, we will know after a try. Before he finished speaking, a flash of light appeared in his hand, and 6 talismans appeared in his hand. He injected mana into it and threw it directly at the vertical blue light column. Be careful, these are the Fire Rain Talisman and the Ice Sealing Talisman. These are all second-level low-grade talismans, which are difficult for ordinary late-stage key training cultivators to deal with. Jindan knew that if he did not take action to block the 6 Fire Rain Talismans and the Ice Sealing Talisman, these nearly 50 family members would not survive. So he did not hesitate at all and immediately raised a layer of spiritual power shield to block the pouring fire rain and the sweeping cold air outside. As the cold air passed, the Kigan cultivators who were not protected by the spiritual power shield were instantly frozen into ice sculptures. The fire clouds above their heads shot down countless fire rains, which crackled and hit the ice sculptures. It can only be described as a world of ice and fire. While Jindan and other people from the Fufang Jin family were holding him back, Ling Yuansheng made a seal with both hands, and the virtual tripod above his head flashed. Before Jindan could react, he crashed into the vertical blue light column. Boom, the virtual tripod was bounced away, and the formation base here exploded. The blue light column suddenly disappeared, and then affected the blue and white sphere in the sky above Qingkang Mountain, which slowly became blurred until it disappeared. As the blue and white sphere disappeared, the white light beam that was shut out also disappeared immediately. The 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation was no longer suppressed, and the effect of sealing the spirit was instantly revealed. Any outsider cultivator who broke into the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation felt that his Danshan was bound by some unknown force, and it was difficult to mobilize the spiritual power inside. Even if they could mobilize the spiritual power in their Danshan, they could only mobilize a small part. The lower the cultivation of the cultivator, the more obvious the feeling. Jindan Clan was not much stronger than Ling Youdao, and now he was suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation. He could only exert more than 60% of his cultivation strength, and was no match for Ling Youdao at all. He immediately said, "Break out of the formation." Before he finished speaking, he headed towards a road out of the formation. Jindan Clan and Jin Mingking followed closely, followed by more than 200 key training cultivators. Seeing this, Ling Youdao laughed wildly and said, "Ha ha ha, good, my 5th brother has destroyed the formation base. All the clansmen, follow me and kill the foreign enemies." Hearing this, the Cangli Ling family monks were overjoyed and shouted excitedly, "Follow the orders of the elders, kill, kill." The Cangli Ling family had been holding back their anger for a long time, and now they were finally released. They were like hungry wolves, biting the people of the Fufang Jin family and not letting go. The Fufang Jin family monks were defeated and retreated instantly. The 3 foundation-building monks could not protect themselves and could not rescue their younger generations. More than 200 key training monks of the Fufang Jin family were chased and killed by less than 100 Cangli Ling family key training monks. In addition, on the way out of the formation, the people were constantly attacked by the formation. One by one, the key training monks of the Fufang Jin family were killed by the formation or by the Cangli Ling family monks who were chasing them. More and more people fell to the ground and could not get up again. Jindan Clan and the other 2 had bloodshot eyes, but they were unable to rescue them. If they took a step back, their lives would be in danger. Therefore, for the sake of the Fufang Jin family, they could only rush out. Ling Youdao chased Jindan Clan, and Jindan Clan could only respond with talismans. The broken water sword left a trace of afterimage, and slashed towards Jindan Clan with a hint of cold air. Seeing this, Jindan Clan instantly activated a 2nd level upper grade Vajra talisman, easily blocking the broken water sword from coming outside. The broken water sword flew back to Ling Youdao hand. He held the broken water sword and swung it. A cold sword light exuded a sharp innate sword energy and slashed on the golden cover. Squeak, squeak, many cracks appeared on the golden cover formed by the Vajra talisman. Jindan Clan's face was full of disbelief. "What?" Ling Youdao raised the broken water sword high. And the innate sword energy emanating from the sword gathered into a transparent big sword. Sword 2, the water-breaking sword in his hand fell down with a bang, and the large sword formed by the innate sword energy that was suspended in the air also fell down at the same time, slashing on the golden cover with many cracks. Bang! The golden cover formed by the Vajra talisman shattered instantly, and the transparent large sword slashed towards Jindan Clan. Jindan Clan hurriedly raised a spiritual shield, but she was suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation and could only exert 60% of her cultivation strength at most, and could not block this sword at all. Bang! The spiritual shield was shattered, and the transparent large sword slashed on Jindan Clan's back. "Ah!" she screamed and fell to the ground below, basically unable to survive. Seeing Jindan Clan being killed, Jindan Clan was powerless and could only continue to flee with tears in his eyes. On the other side, Ling Youdao, holding the black umbrella, rushed towards Jin Mingking without hesitation. Facing Ling Youdao who was chasing him, Jin Mingking could only flee in panic under the attack of the formation. Ling Youdao held the yang flame in his left hand and the yin flame in his right hand, and threw them out together. The 2 flames with opposite auras entangled with each other, forming a white flame with a little golden light, which slammed into Jin Mingking's body. The flames instantly filled Jin Mingking's body. She felt that her body and soul were being burned at the same time, and the countless water vapor driven by her spiritual power offset the white flames. But she was also suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation, and could only exert more than 50% of her cultivation strength, and could not suppress the white flames at all. After a while, she fell from the flying sword and fell directly to the ground. Her body was constantly burning, and her soul was also burning. Jin Mingking let out a miserable wail from the depths of her soul. It was creepy to hear. In a short while, she was burned to white powder, and there was nothing left when the breeze blew. Chapter 154, 9 families suffered heavy losses, Mu Yu passed away. The array base was destroyed, and the flying debris hit the spiritual power shield raised by Jindan Clan like raindrops. The spiritual power shield soon reached its limit, and with a bang, it instantly shattered into many small pieces. Ah! 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 A series of screams and wails resounded continuously. Ling Yuansheng recalled the virtual tripod and immediately flew away on his sword. Jindan Clan looked at the destroyed array base and the family descendants who suffered heavy casualties, and said angrily, "Ling Yuanshen, my Fufang Jin family will destroy your Cangli Ling family to avenge today." Ah! He roared, and the air around him shook and made a series of explosions. Ling Yuansheng flew out of the Fufang Jin family's camp and quickly flew towards the camps of the other 8 families. This large array has a total of 9 array bases. It is impossible to completely destroy the large array by destroying only the array bases in the Fufang Jin family camp. Destroying only the array base in the Fufang Jin camp would delay the time very limited. Once the array base was repaired, it would suppress the 7 absolute sealing spirit array again. So he decided to take advantage of this opportunity to destroy all the array bases in the 9 camps in one go. In this way, it would be impossible for the 9 families to build a new array without a year or 2. But this time, the Cangli Ling family was prepared, so how could they let the 9 families build a new array base under their noses? The strength of the Fufang Jin family could not stop Ling Yuanshen, let alone the other 8 families. Ling Yuansheng encountered almost no obstacles, and easily destroyed the array bases in the center of the 8 camps. The array was completely paralyzed, and he immediately returned to the top of Qingkang Mountain. On the other side, after Jin Dafan and Jin Minking were killed, Jin Daking, with dozens of his descendants, finally escaped from the 7 absolute sealing spirit array. The suppressed cultivation strength was instantly restored. With strength, there was also confidence. Jin Daking stopped running away, but gathered outside the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation. Ling Yuangu waved his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Looking at the people of the Cangli Ling clan in the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation, Jin Daking gritted his teeth and said, "The Cangli Ling clan is really good at scheming." Hearing this, Ling Yuangu laughed and said, "You are stealing a chicken but losing a handful of rice. You dare to look down on my Cangli Ling clan?" Jin Daking glared, snorted coldly, waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Looking at the retreating Fufang Jin clan cultivators, Ling Youdao asked seriously, "Grandpa, are you going to let them go just like that? Don't chase after a desperate enemy. The most urgent thing is to protect the top of Qingkang Mountain." Everyone answered in unison, "Yes." After everyone returned, Ling Yuansheng also came back. Ling Yuangu asked, "Fifth brother, the formation base was destroyed just in time. The reason why the Cangli Ling clan was able to kill the people of the 9 families was because the formation that affected the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation was destroyed. It can be said that Ling Yuansheng played an indispensable role in this great victory. Well, I saw it when I came back." On the way back, he met several retreating monks from the families and killed some of them, but many people still managed to escape. The 9 families suffered heavy losses this time, and the formation bases in the 9 camps have been destroyed by me. This cannot be rebuilt in a short time, so in a short time, the 9 families will probably not launch a large-scale attack. Ling Yuangu and his men were shocked. "What? You actually removed all the formation bases in the 9 camps? Not bad, haha, good, fifth brother, I didn't expect you to be so fast." Then, under the organization of Ling Yuangu, the surviving Cangli Ling clan disciples began to slowly clean up the battlefield. Ling Yuansheng and Ling Youdao sent Mu Yu back to the main house of the new compound on the other side of the Qingkang Mountain. Then he immediately sent a message to Mu Yanran, telling her that Mu Yu was dying and could die at any time. Mu Yanran panicked and rushed back to the new compound as quickly as possible. "Grandpa still has 1 year to live, right? Why is he going to die suddenly?" She was confused and a little heartbroken, and it was an indescribable feeling. As soon as she rushed into the house, she saw Mu Yu sitting cross-legged there, with a head full of white hair, a face full of wrinkles, eyes slightly closed, and a very weak breath. "Grandpa, Yanran is back." Hearing Mu Yanran's voice, Mu Yu opened his eyes with difficulty, looked at Mu Yanran, forced a smile on his face, and said softly, "Yanran, you are finally back." Hearing this, Mu Yanran grabbed Mu Yu's hands, tears in her eyes, as if she was about to cry the next moment. Yes, Grandpa, Yanran is back. Grandpa is already very satisfied to see you before he dies." "Grandpa, didn't you tell Yanran that you still have 1 year to live?" Why are you going to die suddenly? Ling Youdao, who was standing next to him, said. Yanran, in order to kill a late foundation building cultivator from the Fufang Jin family, she burned her only remaining 1 year of life. So, Mu Yanran asked in a tearful voice, Grandpa, why are you doing this? Mu Yu chuckled, everyone must die, and Grandpa is no exception. He turned his head and said, Ling Yuanshen, you and Ling Youdao go out first. I have something to say to Yanran alone. Hearing this, Ling Yuanshen frowned slightly, thinking that Mu Yu was going to tell Mu Yanran his secret. After hesitating for a while, he finally went out of the house with Ling Youdao. Seeing the two leave, Mu Yu took out a storage bag from his arms. Yanran, Grandpa has been refining pills for more than 100 years, and he has indeed accumulated some things. Grandpa will give it to you today. As he said that, Mu Yu placed the storage bag in Mu Yanran's palm. The resources here are enough to support you to the late stage of foundation building. You must keep them well and don't let others get them for free. Yes, this time, Grandpa earned his life to help Cangli Ling's family solve a late stage of foundation building cultivator, so that Cangli Ling's family owes me a favor. After Grandpa passes away, this favor will be transferred to you. Grandpa, you care so much about Yanran, how do you want Yanran to repay you? Silly girl, Yanran, remember what Grandpa said, the hearts of people in the immortal world are treacherous, and no one is as reliable as your own strength, so you must practice well. Mu Yu was worried about Mu Yanran, fearing that she would be bullied, and tried to persuade her earnestly. On Fufang Island, inside a cave, a man was sitting cross-legged on a cushion. He was short and thin, wearing a green gown, with a beard, and exuding a powerful aura. Shaoking, this man finished his work and looked in the direction of Cangli Island, his eyes emitting golden light. The opportunity for the Fufang Jin family to unify the Liuyan Islands has come. The man's figure flashed, and he turned into blue light and fled to Cangli Island. Chapter 155. Let's meet the real person. The 9 families suffered heavy casualties and their strength was greatly reduced. They were worried that they would be defeated one by Cangli Ling, so they all gathered in the camp of Fufang Jin. Originally, there were more than 1,000 key training monks and 18 foundation building monks, but after the previous defeat, there are now less than 800 key training monks and only 11 foundation building monks. Although Fufang Jin lost a lot of key training monks, and even lost 3 foundation building monks Jindan, and Jin Minking in the late foundation building period, there are still nearly 200 key training monks and Jindan and Jindan in the late foundation building period. This loss only hurt the Fufang Jin family's bones and muscles, but not its roots. Its strength is still not something that any of the 8 families can challenge. As for the other 8 families, being able to survive 2 foundation building monks and 70 or 80 key training monks is already the best situation. The worst situation is that there is only 1 injured foundation building monk left, plus more than 30 key training monks. Even those who survived were mostly wounded, and their fighting power was greatly reduced. The loss of a single family might not be a big deal for the Fufang Jin family, but for the 8 families, it was definitely a serious injury. In the central tent of the Fufang Jin family camp, Jindan and Jindan sat at the top, and on the left and right were the foundation building monks of the 8 families. They were dejected and sad, like defeated roosters, without any fighting spirit. Silence needs to be broken after all. Jindan put his hand in front of his mouth and coughed gently a few times. Cough, cough, cough. The sudden cough sounded very abrupt, and instantly attracted the attention of the foundation building monks present. They all looked at Jindan, the patriarch of the Fufang Jin family, who was sitting at the top. My fellow Taoists, I know that your families have suffered heavy losses this time, but my Fufang Jin family has also suffered heavy losses. 3 foundation building monks died in the battle, and there are even monks in the late stage of foundation building, but can we retreat? Hearing this, the monks of the 8 families thought deeply. Jindan continued, fellow Taoists, don't you want to avenge the family members who died in the battle? Our 9 families have killed so many Cangli Ling's cultivators and have formed a blood feud with them. You can't retreat just because you want to. Indeed, in order to give an explanation to the dead, Cangli Ling would not make peace with the 8 families. If we don't work harder to destroy Cangli Ling now, when they recover, we will be the ones to suffer. At this point, Jindan spread his hands. My Fufang Jin family has a Jindan's Henren sitting in front, so we are not afraid of Cangli Ling's revenge, but can your respective families stop Cangli Ling's revenge? Hearing this, the 9 foundation building cultivators below were obviously a little panicked. After a while, the 9 foundation building cultivators regained their composure and figured out another relationship. That is, compared with the 8 families, the Fufang Jin family is the #1 enemy of Cangli Ling. With the Fufang Jin family in front, the 8 families are absolutely safe. Therefore, several foundation building monks directly proposed to retreat. After all, if they retreated at this time, their families could avoid further losses, but the benefits promised by Fufang Jin's family would no longer be available. But if they did not retreat, they would continue to fight with Cangli Ling's family, and if they were not careful, they would risk extinction. This was a dilemma, which was related to the future of each family. In this regard, the 9 foundation building monks from the 8 families were clearly divided into 2 factions. One faction was the 2 families that suffered less losses in the previous war. In order to obtain the benefits promised by Fufang Jin's family, these 2 families were willing to fight Cangli Ling's family again. The other faction was the 6 families that suffered greater losses in the previous war. For the sake of family inheritance, these 6 families advocated retreat to prevent further losses. After all, if the strength of each family was greatly damaged, even if Cangli Ling's family was finally destroyed, only a small part of the benefits could be obtained. If all the foundation building elders in the family died in the battle, not only would they not get the benefits of destroying Cangli Ling's family, but they would become the next Cangli Ling's family and be destroyed by other families. For these families that have been passed down for hundreds of years, or even thousands of years, compared to taking huge risks with the survival of the family, they are more willing to pass on the family in peace, because only existence can bring hope. At this moment, the 8 families have long forgotten the oath of advancing and retreating together that they made when they formed the alliance. Seeing that they could not reach a conclusion, the foundation building cultivator of Giant Jindan Clan said loudly, "Chief Jin, things have evolved into this. Our 9 families have suffered heavy losses, while Cangli Ling Clan has only lost more than 100 key training disciples and a late-stage foundation building guest official with a short lifespan." He paused and said, "With a rise and fall of 1, perhaps the Cangli Ling Clan is really not going to be destroyed." Who said that the Cangli Ling Clan is not going to be destroyed? This loud voice seemed to be spoken in everyone's ears. However, except for the 11 foundation building cultivators in the big tent, no one else could hear it. Along with the voice came a blue light, which went straight into the big tent in the center of the Fufang Jin's camp. When the blue light disappeared, a short and thin old man stood in the center of the tent, wearing a green gown and a beard. The aura he exuded made the foundation building monks feel depressed. Jindan Clan and Jindan King were stunned for a moment, then suddenly stood up and walked to the old man in ecstasy. Jindan Clan said, "My son greets father." Jindan King said, "Greetings to the old patriarch." The other 9 foundation building cultivators also said respectfully, "We greet the real master." Jin's Hongai nodded with satisfaction, walked to the top and sat down, looked at the foundation building cultivators one by one, and asked, "Who said that the Cangli Ling family has not yet reached the point of destruction?" Upon hearing this, the foundation building cultivator of the giant Jindan family stood up tremblingly, and said in a trembling voice, "Respectful master." Those words were said by a junior, but I have absolutely no other thoughts. I hope you can understand. Jindan Clan also said, "Father, this is the time to use people. I hope you can let the people of the giant Jindan family make up for their crimes and make meritorious contributions." The foundation building cultivator of the giant Jindan family was full of gratitude to Jindan Clan, and nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, the giant Jindan family is willing to make up for their crimes and make meritorious contributions. I hope you will forgive them." Hearing this, Jin's Hongai looked coldly at the foundation building cultivators of the giant Jindan family and the other 7 families. "Now that I am here, the Cangli Ling family must be destroyed. If you dare to criticize us again, you will become enemies with my Fufang Jin family, so don't blame me for killing you." The 9 foundation building cultivators were silent and said, "We understand. We swear to destroy the Cangli Ling family." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Kill all the people of Cangli Ling Clan. In the cave at the top of King Kang Mountain, Ling Jixin sat cross-legged on an old cushion, surrounded by a rich spiritual energy visible to the naked eye. A yellow demon pill was suspended above his head, spinning non-stop. Yellow energy continued to flow out of the demon pill and slowly poured into Ling Jixin's body below. The yellow energy is the origin of this demon pill, which has many magical uses. Through Ling Jixin's body, the yellow energy passed through layers of obstacles and then gathered in his middle danshan. Only by opening up the middle danshan can one become a golden elixir cultivator. The main goal of the foundation building cultivator's cultivation is to increase the liquid spiritual power in the lower danshan, while constantly compressing the liquid spiritual power and solidifying it step by step. However, the world is full of rules, and the human body is the same. The rule of the lower danshan is that only gaseous spiritual power and liquid spiritual power can exist. In other words, no matter how the liquid spiritual power solidifies, it will not be able to take the last step, and it is impossible to form a golden elixir. The step of forming a golden elixir can only be completed in the middle danshan, so if the foundation building cultivator wants to become a golden elixir cultivator, he must open up the middle danshan. Of course, the development of the middle danshan is not as simple as imagined. It not only requires strong cultivation strength, but also requires a large amount of spiritual energy to support the entire development process. There are many foundation-building cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation, but most of them are stuck here, and only a few can open up the middle danshan. After the middle danshan is opened, the solidified spiritual power in the lower danshan rises to the middle danshan, and then continues to solidify until the golden elixir comes out, and then the elixir is formed. Although Ling Jixin formed a fake elixir, he still needs to open up the middle danshan. It took him several years to successfully open up the middle danshan, and then the solidified spiritual power in the lower danshan rose to the middle danshan. Then he saw a small fake elixir on top of the solidified spiritual power. Then he saw the yellow energy that flowed into the body gathered on the fake elixir and merged with a fake elixir. The formation of a fake elixir is different from the formation of a golden elixir. The formation of a golden elixir is to form a golden elixir by absorbing the energy in the demon elixir of the third-level monster beast. It is gathered into golden elixir. Because it is not your own, it is called a fake elixir. Then he saw that the demon pill floating above Ling Jixin's head was getting smaller and smaller, while the fake pill floating above the solid spiritual power was getting bigger and bigger. I believe that it won't be long before he can absorb the essence of this third-level demon pill and transform it into his own fake pill. Outside the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit Formation, in the central tent of the Fufang Jin family's camp, Jin Chang'ai sat alone at the top, with Jin Daquan standing on the left and Jin Daking standing on the right. 9 foundation-building cultivators from 8 families stood on the left and right sides of the bottom, looking very respectful. Facing the golden core true man, these foundation-building cultivators had no place to sit. Daquan, talk. Jin Chang'ai's order before retreating was to launch a war of genocide against the Cangli Ling family after he came out of retreat. He came to Cangli Island right after he finished retreating, just to test whether Ling Chuan was dead, and then consider whether to immediately launch a war of genocide against the Cangli Ling family, but he never thought of running into Jin Daquan and others. Hearing this, Jin Daquan said, "Father, I united 8 families to besiege the Cangli Ling clan, and I also wanted to share your worries and weaken their strength first." Jin Zhongai asked in a deep voice, "But what was the result?" Jin Daquan hurriedly said, "Father, please forgive me. I didn't expect the people of the Cangli Ling clan to be so cunning that they suffered such a great defeat." Jin Zhongai was instantly angry and said, "You are so confused. You don't look for problems in yourself, but just blame it on the strength of your opponent. How can I trust you to hand over the family to you? Father, please calm down. It's all my fault. I'm sorry to disappoint you." The dignified Fufang Jin clan patriarch, a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building, was like a child in front of Jin Zhongai. "When I come, the Cangli Ling clan will be destroyed. The loss is also a loss, which is not a big deal. But I hope you can learn from it and not make such a mistake again." Jin Zhongai was sure that Ling Chuan was dead and that the Cangli Ling clan had not produced any new Jindan cultivators, so he was confident that he could destroy the Cangli Ling clan in one fell swoop. Jin Daquan replied loudly, "Yes." Then he said, "Father, the previous defeat caused us to lose a lot of people. We are no longer in the advantage in terms of numbers. How about mobilizing some more people?" As soon as this was said, a foundation building cultivator immediately said, "Master, what the Jin clan leader said is right. I can still transfer 1 foundation building cultivator and 50 key training cultivators from the giant Jindan clan. The Chen clan can also transfer 1 foundation building cultivator and 70 key training cultivators. The foundation building cultivators of the 8 clans expressed their opinions one after another, and they all wanted to transfer people from their clans. They are not fools. Now that the Jindan master Jin Songhai is in charge, the Cangli Ling clan must be destroyed. This is a great opportunity to gain credit, and everyone naturally wants to perform well. However, Jin Songhai waved his hand and said, "No need. The power of the Jindan is not something that a foundation building cultivator can resist. Attack the Cangli Ling clan immediately." Hearing this, Jindan Clan said excitedly, "My son obeys your command." The Cangli Ling clan did not notice Jin Songhai's arrival at all. There is always a celebration after a war, and this time is no exception. The only difference is that the foundation building elders did not participate in the celebration, but gathered in the meeting hall to discuss the next plan. Sitting at the top of the hall were Ling Youdao and Ling Yuansheng, who were in the late stage of foundation building. Sitting on the left were Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanqing, Ling Yuansheng, Ling Yuanqi, Ling Dingshan, who were in the middle stage of foundation building, and Ling Dingai, who was in the early stage of foundation building. Ling Dingshan was not far from the middle stage of foundation building. After this war, he successfully broke through his bottleneck and reached the middle stage of foundation building, leaving the other foundation building monks of the Ding generation far behind. And on the right were Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, Ling Dingxin, Ling Dingxi, Ling Yaoxin, and Ling Youdao, who were in the early stage of foundation building. Mu Yu had just passed away, and Mu Yanran was in great pain, so she did not come to discuss matters. After all, Mu Yanran had just become a Taoist partner with Ling Youdao, and many foundation building elders in the Cangli Ling family still rejected her. In order to avoid suspicion, she chose not to come. Ling Yuangu said, "Fifth brother, you have made the greatest contribution to our victory in defeating the coalition of 9 families this time." Ling Yuansheng laughed and said, "This great victory is the result of the concerted efforts of all the clansmen. As long as the Cangli Ling clan is united, we will definitely be able to survive this difficult time." Hearing this, the faces of the foundation building elders present were full of smiles, and they all nodded and said, "Seventh elder is right." At this moment, everyone's heart was full of hope for the future. When everyone was happy, a powerful momentum suddenly came down, making the foundation building cultivators present feel chest tightness. "What's going on?" The next moment, a rolling voice was heard, like thunder. "Kill all the people of the Cangli Ling clan." The foundation building cultivators were shocked, suddenly stood up, and flew out of the meeting hall on their swords. Chapter 157, Defending the Family to the Death. As soon as the foundation building cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan flew out of the meeting hall, they saw an old man standing in the sky above Kingkang Mountain, with his hands behind his back. Seeing this man, the foundation building cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan were shocked. Ling Yuansheng couldn't help but say, "Jin Songhai, that's right, the man who was on the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation was Jin Songhai, the only Jindan's Henrin of the Fufeng Jin clan. The Jindan's Henrin has taken action. What should we do?" Everyone was as anxious as ants on a hot pot, and kept chattering in their mouths, but there was no substantial solution. Ling Yuansheng calmed down, flew a distance, and bowed to Jin Songhai who was standing in the air. He said very respectfully, "Junior greets the real person." Jin Songhai sneered, "Once Ling Chuan dies, there will only be you little cats left in the Cangli Ling family." Ling Yuansheng frowned, but asked calmly, "How can the real person determine that the ancestor has passed away?" Immediately, he said, "Although the real person's sword is powerful and directly penetrated the body of the ancestor, it is not fatal." Ling Yuansheng said without a heartbeat, "A face, or a breath, the ancestor has not shown up for a long time, just to heal better." Jin Songhai has lived for hundreds of years, and has seen countless people and experienced countless things. Naturally, he can see at a glance that Ling Yuansheng is pretending to be a pig. Ling Yuansheng also knows that the effect of saying this is almost zero, but he still wants to deter Jin Songhai and make him unsure of the situation of the Cangli Ling family. In this way, in the subsequent battles, Jin Songhai will be on guard against Ling Chuan. If he has some concerns, he will definitely not be able to exert his full strength. Although nothing can be changed, as long as time can be delayed, it is a little bit. At this moment, what Cangli Ling clan lacks is time. Jin's Hongai frowned slightly, thinking in his heart, could it be that Ling Chuan is really not dead? He had previously concluded that Ling Chuan was dead, and it was only based on the injuries Ling Chuan suffered. No, that old man Ling Chuan must be dead. He looked at Ling Yuansheng and laughed. You are a good kid, you dare to lie to me. Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng shook his head secretly. His expression changed instantly, his face was serious, and he said firmly, what if you lie? What if you don't lie? If you want to destroy my Cangli Ling clan, then step over my body. In an instant, a foundation building pressure rose up, facing the pressure of the golden elixir above his head, without the slightest intention of retreating. And before he finished speaking, a group of foundation-building cultivators from the Cangli Ling clan flew to Ling Yuansheng's side, looked at Jin's Hongai above, and said with a firm look, if you want to destroy the Cangli Ling clan, then step over our corpses. I saw 14 foundation-building pressures entangled with each other, and then gathered together, like a hungry wolf against a tiger, knowing that they could not defeat it, but refusing to retreat. Jin's Hongai laughed in anger. Okay, then I will send you off. He waved his sleeves, and a water dragon more than 5 meters long, winding and circling, crashed into Ling Yuansheng and others with a roar of dragons. Looking at the crashing water dragon, several people trembled in their hearts. Boom! The water dragon crashed into the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation, and instantly disintegrated into countless water splashes. Seeing this, several people breathed a sigh of relief. Jin's Hongai is indeed a Jindan's Henren, and his strength is indeed very powerful, but even as powerful as he is, it is not an easy task to break through the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation with amazing defense. Seeing the water dragons disintegrate, Jin's Hongai was very angry. He cast several spells in succession, and the water dragons crashed into the protective light shield with dragon roars. Ling Yuangu asked with a serious expression, Fifth brother, what should we do now? Hearing this, the other foundation-building cultivators also looked at him. Obviously, Ling Yuansheng's previous performances had conquered everyone and became the backbone of everyone. He said in a deep voice, the only way is to fight to the death. Ling Dingxi asked, Fifth uncle, then how long do we have to hold on? How long will it take for the ancestor to come out of retreat? In order not to affect the determination of the clan members to resist foreign enemies, the news of Ling Chuan's death was not made public. Only a few people in the entire Cangli Ling family knew about it. And all the foundation-building cultivators of the Cangli Ling family knew that Ling Jixin was in retreat, but the key training cultivators below did not know. Now, Ling Yuansheng had to continue to make up the lie that Ling Chuan was in retreat, so that the clan members would have expectations, so as to better resist foreign enemies. If he tells the truth now, many family members will lose confidence instantly. In that case, there will be turmoil in the Cangli Ling family without anyone outside. As long as there is one person alive, we must persist, because only by persisting can the Cangli Ling family have hope. Everyone was deeply touched, and Ling Yuangu immediately responded, Fifth brother is right, we must persist until death, persist until death. Ling Yuansheng immediately ordered, pass on my order, all family cultivators are on standby at any time and swear to defend the family to the death. Yes, several foundation-building cultivators flew away on their swords to convey Ling Yuansheng's order. In the sky, Jin's Hongai stroked his beard and exclaimed, what a powerful 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit array, it really lives up to its reputation, and my strength can't even shake it. He stroked his beard and smiled, fortunately, I have been prepared. As he spoke, Jin's Hongai's hand flashed with a flash of light, and 3 more beads appeared in an instant. These are 3 forbidden breaking beads, 2 of which have reached the 3rd order lower grade, and 1 has reached the 3rd order middle grade. Although the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit formation has amazing defensive power, it is still a 3rd order lower grade formation after all. Even if it can withstand 3 forbidden breaking beads, it can't withstand the attacks of so many cultivators. Once this formation is broken, the Cangli Ling family will be at my mercy. What if Ling Chuan is still alive? The Cangli Ling family still can't escape the fate of destruction. As he said this, Jin's Hongai threw the 3 forbidden breaking beads in his hand at the same time. The 3 forbidden breaking beads drew an arc and directly hit the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation. Bang! The forbidden breaking beads broke at the same time, and the energy that escaped instantly corroded the protective light shield into holes. Seeing this, Ling Yuansheng and others were shocked. Oh no, this is a forbidden breaking bead. Then they saw that several holes on the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation faded and disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, and continued to spread to the surroundings. The protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation became broken, and the power of the sealing spirit could not cover the entire formation. In other words, there were loopholes in the area covered by the sealing spirit power, and the cultivators of the 9 families would not be suppressed by the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation at these loopholes. 800 key training cultivators and 11 foundation building cultivators from the 9 families gathered outside the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation. Seeing that the protective light shield of the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation became broken, the 11 foundation building cultivators were overjoyed. Jindan Clan waved his hand and ordered, "All cultivators listen to my order, here, kill." In an instant, 800 key training cultivators rushed into the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation one after another. Recommended immortal family novel The Top of the Blue Lotus. The author of this book has recommended more than once that immortal families cannot drift. You can go and have a look. Chapter 158 Anyone who offends Cangli will be killed. Woo, woo, woo. The entire Cangli Mountain was filled with melodious horn sounds, one after another, without stopping for a long time. Clan extinction crisis. This was the first reaction of every Cangli Ling family cultivator who heard the horn sound, and they quickly headed in one direction. Except for Ling Jixin, who was in the cave of Ode at the top of Cangli Mountain, all other Cangli Ling family cultivators heard the horn sound, including the cultivators who were in seclusion to break through the realm, and the cultivators who were refining pills and weapons. When the family was in danger, no one could stay out of it. For the survival of the family, everyone had to be prepared to sacrifice their lives. The horn sounded, and more cultivators gathered together. Ling Yuangu, Ling Yuanshen, Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanking, Ling Yuansheng, Ling Yuanqi, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingai, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, Ling Dingxin, Ling Dingxi, Ling Yaoxin, Ling Youdao, Mu Yanrun. A total of 15 foundation building cultivators were hovering over Cangli Mountain with their swords. As soon as the coalition forces of the 9 families rushed into the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation, they instantly scattered and fought with the key training monks of the Cangli Ling clan. The number of key training monks on both sides was about the same, but the key training monks of the Cangli Ling clan were more fully prepared. Because the Cangli Ling clan had devoted all its strength to deal with this genocide war, each key training monk of the Cangli Ling clan had a lot of first-level talismans in their storage bags, as well as elixirs for restoring spiritual power and healing. The coalition forces of the 9 families were different. Compared with the key training monks of the Cangli Ling clan, they were a little shabby. There were very few first-level talismans in their storage bags, even fewer elixirs for restoring spiritual power, and almost no elixirs for healing, so they had to prepare them themselves. Not long after the battle began, the key training monks of the 9 families fell behind. Suddenly, the foundation building monks of the 9 families flew into the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation with their swords, and kept harvesting the lives of the key training monks of the Cangli Ling clan. The key training monks of the 9 families were greatly motivated, and the situation was reversed in an instant. Seeing this, Ling Yuanxiang, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, waved his hand and said, "Kill." Ling Yuangu and Ling Yuansheng stopped where they were, and the other 13 foundation building monks immediately flew their swords to kill the foundation building monks of the 9 families. Ling Yuanxiang, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, and Ling Yuanqing, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, joined forces to deal with Jindan Clan, who was in the late stage of foundation building. Even though the two were experienced middle stage foundation building monks, they were still no match for experienced late-stage foundation building monks. But fortunately, Jindan Clan was injured by Ling Yuangu in the previous defeat, and now his injuries have not fully healed. The two of them worked together to hold him back safely. Ling Yuansheng, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, met Jindan Clan, who was in the middle stage of foundation building. He was a formation master, with a rich family and a lot of good things in his storage bag. He could also arrange simple formations at will to interfere with and ambush opponents. His strength was very strong in the middle stage of foundation building. Jindan Clan is the patriarch of the Fufang Jin family. His father Jin Chong'ai is a Jindan's Henren, so there are definitely a lot of good things in his storage bag. The two are on par in terms of strength and wealth. When they fight, they are inseparable. Ling Yuanqi, Who is in the middle stage of foundation building, faces a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building from the giant Bingguan family. The former is a second-level middle-grade talisman maker. In order to prepare for today's battle, he has been storing various talismans for a long time. Now, there are a large number of talismans in Ling Yuanqi's storage bag, and there are also many second-level talismans. When he fought head-on with the cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building from the giant Bingguan family, he used talismans to sneak attack from the side and injured his opponent several times, forcing the cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building from the giant Bingguan family to divide his energy to defend. As a result, the cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building from the giant Bingguan family fell into a disadvantage. The Cangli Ling family dispatched 13 cultivators of foundation building, while the coalition of 9 families only had 11 cultivators of foundation building. In a battle at the foundation building level, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. As the foundation building cultivators of the Cangli Ling family joined the battle, the key training cultivators of the 9 families lost their help and were soon suppressed by the key training cultivators of the Cangli Ling family. At this moment, the scales of victory leaned towards the Cangli Ling family. Ling Yuxin held a broken water sword and swung it continuously, with sword beams coming out one after another. Each sword beam carried innate sword energy. Ordinary cultivators in the early stage of foundation building were no match at all. They were suppressed from the beginning and had no power to fight back. Damn it, how long has this kid been building his foundation? Why is he so strong? The spiritual light of the defensive spiritual weapon in the hands of this cultivator in the early stage of foundation building dimmed, and even a small crack appeared. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Ling Youdao also did not hold back. He held the flying sword and stared at the Zuanai umbrella. The spiritual power in his danchan surged, and the magic power continued to be injected into the 2 spiritual weapons. The sword body was wrapped in the Cangli Yangayan, and its power increased greatly, with amazing lethality. Mu Yanran was not as good as Ling Yuxin and Ling Youdao. She was just an ordinary foundation building cultivator, and she had only been building her foundation for a short time. Her strength was limited, and she was no match for the cultivator who had been building her foundation for many years in the early stage. Then a sword light broke through Mu Yanran's defense and cut a wound on her arm. Blood kept pouring out, and her entire sleeve was instantly dyed red. Don't hurt my Yanran. Ling Youdao forced his opponent back with one move and immediately rushed to rescue Mu Yanran. An unknown rage burned in his heart, and white flames rose from his body. He was like a big fireball and smashed towards the foundation building cultivator who hurt Mu Yanran. Humph, you still want to be a hero and save the beauty? The cultivator in the early stage of foundation building snorted coldly, and the flying sword drew a residual shadow and slashed at Mu Yanran. How dare you? Ling Youdao shouted, and the white flames on his body rushed straight towards the cultivator in the early stage of foundation building. What? The cultivator in the early stage of foundation building hurriedly dodged. At that moment, he felt that his soul was trembling. Ling Youdao came to Mu Yanran's side, and the white flames on his body gradually disappeared. Yanran, are you okay? Mu Yanran shook her head. I'm fine, that's good. The next moment, the 2 early foundation building cultivators gathered together and looked at each other. Let's go together and kill them both. Even if the 2 sides fought fiercely, and the cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan fell one by one, Ling Yuangu and Ling Yuansheng did not help them. Although the Cangli Ling clan was in the upper hand at this time, it actually did not affect the overall situation at all. The one who really decided the outcome of this battle was Jin Songhai, the powerful Jindan Clan. Ling Yuangu and Ling Yuansheng were late foundation building cultivators, and they were the strongest people except Ling Jixin. The task of resisting Jindan's Henren Jin Songhai could only be done by the 2 of them. Suddenly, a huge water palm slapped the 2 of them, and the speed was so fast that the 2 of them had no time to react. The 2 were hit instantly, and then plunged into the huge water palm, and the huge water palm took the 2 of them and slapped them to the top of Qingkang Mountain. Not good, that was Ling Jixin's retreat place, and there was absolutely no room for error. Ling Yuansheng and Ling Yuangu worked together, and the sword and knife energy in the water palm was crisscrossed. The huge water palm collapsed before it hit the top of Qingkang Mountain. Interesting, Jin Songhai smiled slightly, and then a bigger water palm fell from the sky. Stop it, Ling Yuansheng and Ling Yuangu wanted to use the same trick again, but a strong pressure fell from the sky, like a mountain suddenly pressing down. The 2 could not hold on, and knelt on the ground with a thump. Looking at the huge water palm falling from the top of his head, Ling Yuansheng's eyes were bloodshot, and he stood up suddenly and roared, "I will fight you." Before he finished speaking, a golden light shot from the cave at the top of Qingkang Mountain into the huge water palm, and the huge water palm collapsed instantly. Immediately, a majestic voice, accompanied by a strong pressure, spread to the top of Qingkang Mountain. "Whoever offends Cangli will be killed," Jin's Hongai said in shock. "Jindan Cultivator, I recommend a novel about the cultivation family. Cultivation of immortality starts from the desert. The author of this book has recommended that the cultivation family should not drift away more than once. You can go and have a look." Chapter 159 Ling Jixin comes out of confinement. When everyone's eyes were focused on the top of Qingkang Mountain, the stone door of the cave that had been closed for several years suddenly exploded. A golden light shot out and lingered in the sky above Qingkang Mountain. The next moment, the golden light dissipated, revealing a figure. The man looked middle-aged, wearing a black and gold robe, a black jade crown on his head, and standing in the air with his hands behind his back. The monks from all directions were shocked and said, "Golden Dan monk." This was the first reaction of almost every monk, and the expressions on their faces were extremely rich: shock, fear, joy, and so on. Key training monks cannot fly, foundation building monks fly with flying tools, and Golden Dan monks can fly in the air without the help of external objects. Although Ling Jixin was only a fake Dan monk, he had all the abilities of a Golden Dan monk, but his strength and lifespan were not as good as those of a Golden Dan monk. "Uncle Jiu, I finally waited for you." Ling Yuansheng was like a traveler in the desert who found an oasis. His face was full of excitement, and his eyes were full of hope. At that moment, he had decided to expose the dark blue fire in his hand, risking the danger of attracting the attention of all parties. With the power of the dark blue fire, even if he could not repel Jin's Hongai, he could delay for a long time. If Ling Yuansheng didn't care about his life, he could even tear a piece of flesh from the opponent. But if that happened, the Cangli Ling family would face a greater crisis. Because the dark blue fire is a natural treasure that even Yuanying cultivators are tempted by, and facing a powerful Yuanying cultivator, the Cangli Ling family can be said to have no power to fight back. But in that situation just now, Ling Yuansheng couldn't care so much. Rather than being killed, the Cangli Ling family was destroyed, and the dark blue fire and Cayenne were used to exterminate the enemy. He would rather drag the Fu Fang Jin family into the water and face the crisis of extermination with the Cangli Ling family. If his cultivation was not too weak, he would even want to sacrifice the Cayenne that made Yuanying cultivators crazy. If you want to die, then die together. But at the critical moment, Ling Jixin, who had been in seclusion for several years to make fake pills, suddenly took action. Ling Yuansheng calmed down instantly, realizing that the Cangli Ling clan had not been forced into a dead end, and there was still a glimmer of hope. Once the dark blue true fire and Cayenne appeared, they would definitely bring the Cangli Ling clan into danger of extinction. Looking at Ling Jixin standing in the air, the foundation building cultivators of the 9 families cried out inwardly, "What should we do? If we can't destroy the Cangli Ling clan in one fell swoop, once they are allowed to recover, the family will inevitably suffer." In terms of the battle between the lower-level cultivators, it is obvious that the Cangli Ling clan has the upper hand. But this does not affect the overall situation, because the victory or defeat depends entirely on Jin's Hongai. The sudden appearance of a powerful person suspected to be a Jindan's Henren in the Cangli Ling clan made this unsuspenseful battle blurry again. Jin's Hongai stared at Ling Jixin closely, and suddenly laughed. "I thought it was a Jindan cultivator, but it turned out to be just a fake Dan cultivator." He stroked his beard with a smile, not taking Ling Jixin in front of him seriously at all. Although the strength of the fake elixir cultivators far exceeds that of the foundation-building cultivators, they are still no match for the golden elixir cultivators. That is why Jin's Hongai seemed so relaxed. "Rampant," Ling Jixin shouted, and a yellow light flashed, and the Zuanil sword drew a residual shadow and slashed at Jin's Hongai. "Huh? You actually sacrificed Ling Chuan's Zuanil sword so quickly. You are quite capable." Jin's Hongai waved his sleeves, and a water dragon rushed towards the Zuanil sword with a dragon roar. The sword and the dragon collided with each other, and the Zuanil sword poured in from the dragon's head and shot out from the dragon's tail, and the whole water dragon broke apart in an instant. Seeing this, Jin's Hongai immediately pinched a spell, and the next moment, a thick water wall blocked him in front. The Zuanil sword slashed on the water wall, leaving a huge gap, and then the huge gap gathered together again. It was intact, as if it had not been slashed by the Zuinian sword. Although the Zuinian sword is a magic weapon, I have not yet fully refined it, so its power is limited. Thinking of this, Ling Jixin put away the low-grade magic weapon Zuinian sword, and a silver light flashed in his hand, and suddenly a silver spear appeared. He shook the spear, and circles of silver rippled out like water. Those who dare to offend Cangli will be killed. As soon as the voice fell, Ling Jixin's figure was as fast as lightning, and the tip of the spear was aimed at Jin's Hongai, and he stabbed straight up. The shadow of the one-horned silver rhino appeared at the tip of the spear, and roared at Jin's Hongai opposite. Roar! The next moment, the shadow of the one-horned silver rhino turned into a silver dot and gathered at the tip of the silver-horned spear. Ling Jixin stabbed out a spear fiercely, and a silver spear shadow instantly stabbed Jin's Hongai. Looking for death, Jin's Hongai's eyes turned cold, and with a wave of his big hand, the Yunluo umbrella flew out and fully opened to block him. The silver spear shadow pierced the umbrella of the Cloud Network umbrella. With a bang, the silver spear shadow was smashed and disappeared, and the Cloud Network umbrella shook, and a wave of air spread up and down, left and right, breaking trees and rolling rocks. It happened in a split second, and the whole process took only 2 or 3 breaths. At this time, the cultivators of both sides finally reacted and immediately fought again. Ling Jixin was just a fake elixir cultivator, and was definitely not Jin's Hongai's opponent. This was an indisputable fact. Ling Yuansheng flew out on his sword and said loudly, "Uncle Jiu, nephew is here to help you." Before he finished speaking, Ling Yuangu also flew out on his sword. "Uncle Jiu, nephew is here to help you too." Ling Yuansheng flew his sword to the left of Ling Jixin, and Ling Yuangu flew his sword to the right of him. Ling Jixin looked at the two of them and immediately said with a smile, "Okay, today my uncle and nephew will fight against a powerful enemy together." Hearing this, Jin's Hongai, who was far away, laughed and said, "Today, I will let you see how powerful Jindan's Henrin is." As soon as the voice fell, Jin's Hongai's aura rose steadily. All the lakes and ponds on Qinkang Mountain shook violently, and the river water flowed back to the sky. These rivers flowing to the sky seemed to have received some kind of order, and hundreds of rivers of all sizes gathered towards Jin's Hongai, who was higher up. Under the sunlight, the river water was crystal clear, and various creatures in the river could be seen swimming peacefully in it. All the rivers flowed towards Jin's Hongai, except for the water in one river that did not move. Although the water in that river was very agitated, it seemed to be bound by some force, and no matter how hard they struggled, they could not get out. Seeing that more and more river water was gathering towards Jin's Hongai, Ling Jixin and the other two secretly said that it was not good and looked at each other. "Kill!" Ling Jixin rushed forward holding the silver-horned spear, with bursts of spear light coming out of the spear tip. Feeling the breath brought by the spear light, Jin's Hongai couldn't help but say, "Innate spear energy." Ling Yuangu's golden eagle sword drew a trace of afterimage, circling and slashing towards Jin's Hongai. A red light shot out from Ling Yuangu's body, and the red light gathered into a virtual tripod. He formed seals with both hands, and the virtual tripod flew out, smashing towards Jin's Hongai with a force of 10,000 kilograms. In the distance, Mu Yanren was slightly stunned and said, "Is this Grandpa's virtual tripod magic skill?" Chapter 160, The Wrath of the Golden Core. Blood rain all over the sky. Then the converging river water formed a giant nearly 50 feet high, like a small mountain suspended in the air. Ling Jixin thrust out a spear, and the silver spear light with the innate spear energy shot into the water giant's body in the blink of an eye. The innate spear energy raged in the water giant's body, and countless aquatic creatures were crushed by the innate spear energy. Blood filled the air, dyeing the water giant's chest red. Bubbles kept popping up in the body, transparent, blood red, densely packed, and countless. After a while, the silver spear light in the water giant's body disappeared, and the raging innate spear energy became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared. The golden eagle sword slashed, and the water giant stretched out his big hand to grab it. Seeing this, Ling Yuangu changed the magic formula in his hand, and the golden eagle sword's momentum increased sharply, and it slashed down with a sharp blade light in an instant. Wow! A section of the water giant's finger was cut off, and the golden eagle sword took the opportunity to escape from its palm. The next moment, the finger that was cut off by the golden eagle sword grew back, and the broken finger turned into a stream of water, quickly flowing back to the body of the water giant. The virtual tripod grew larger in the air, and its diameter reached 3 feet. Bang! Wow! The giant virtual tripod smashed on the head of the water giant, and the head of the water giant sank inward. Suddenly, the sunken area bounced outward, and the giant virtual tripod was directly shaken away, turning several circles in the air before it was stabilized under the control of Ling Yuanshen. Seeing this, Ling Jixin immediately said to the two, "Don't fight hard, entangle it, and never let it get close to the top of Qingkang Mountain. You must hold on until the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array is restored." The 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array was not broken, but was suppressed by the breaking Forbidden Pearl, causing the protective light shield to break and unable to cover the entire top of Qingkang Mountain. As a result, loopholes appeared, and the cultivators of the 9 families were in these loopholes, so they were not suppressed by the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array and could exert their full cultivation strength. But this suppression is not permanent. The power of the forbidden bead will eventually disappear. If the people of the 9 families have not broken the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array before the power of the forbidden bead disappears, then the broken protective light shield of the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array will quickly connect into a whole. At that time, the entire top of Qingkang Mountain will be covered by the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array, and the cultivators of the 9 families will have nowhere to hide. They will inevitably be suppressed by the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array, and their cultivation strength will certainly be greatly reduced. Even as strong as Jin's Hongai, it is impossible to avoid it, because this is the power of the 3rd level lower grade formation. The core of the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array is at the top of Qingkang Mountain. Once it is destroyed, the entire 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array will be paralyzed in an instant. Of course, the cultivators of the 9 families did not know that it was the core of the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array. So they never attacked it with all their might. Ling Yuansheng and Ling Yuanggu understood Ling Jixin's meaning and immediately responded, yes. The 3 of them immediately changed their previous strategy of taking the initiative to attack, and instead flew back and forth around the water giant. The water giant waved his arms, and his 2 big hands kept grabbing. However, the larger the body, the slower it was, and the 3 people always escaped through his fingers. After a long time of not being able to catch the 3 little ants, Jin's Hongai was instantly furious. "Do you really think I can't do anything to you?" The spell in his hand suddenly changed, and the water giant stopped immediately, raised his head and roared like thunder. "Hoo!" The sound waves resonated with the air, as if the whole world was trembling. A stream of blood spurted out of the mouth of the water giant, exploded on his head, and scattered into countless tiny blood drops. The sky was full of dense blood drops, which shot down together, covering the sky and the earth, like the end of the world. Countless blood drops were like countless bullets, and those who were hit would die if they were scratched. Ah, ah, ah. Screams came one after another, and then they became one, and blood spurted out from the wounds, flowing all over the ground. The top of a Qingkang Mountain was like a hell on earth. The people who screamed were not only the cultivators of Cangli Clan, but also the cultivators of the 8 families, including the people of Jindan Clan. The cultivators reacted quickly and immediately used defensive magic weapons, even defensive spiritual weapons, to resist the blood drops. But even so, many people's defensive magic weapons were still pierced by the blood drops, and the blood drops penetrated the bodies of the people behind the defensive magic weapons. The screams continued, one after another, and the people who heard them trembled in their hearts. "Elder, save me. Second uncle, save me. Third grandfather, save me." Looking at the children of the families falling one by one, the cries for help that hit the soul made the foundation-building cultivators of the 8 families full of bloodshot eyes, but they were forced to suppress them. "Chief Jin, what does Master Jin mean? Killing the people of Cangli Clan is fine, but why do you have to kill your own people? Yes, why do you have to kill your own people? We fought for the Jindan Clan, are you going to treat us like this?" Hearing this, Jindan Clan said, under the blood drops shooting down, "Fellow Daoists, please be patient. My father is doing this to get rid of the Cangli Clan as soon as possible." He then gritted his teeth and said, "Besides, a few key training disciples will die, and after destroying the Cangli Clan, we will have the resources to practice, and we can train a large number of them within a few years." The incident happened suddenly, and Jindan Clan was also confused, but as the son of Jin's Hongai, he had to stand with Jin's Hongai. Looking at the children of the Jindan Clan being shot through by the blood drops, he said in a deep voice, "The rise of the family will inevitably involve the death of people, and your death is valuable. The blood drops also shot at the top of King Mountain, and their power was so great that they even shook the core of the 7 absolute sealing spirit array, and the array trembled. The black umbrella was suspended above Ling Youdao's head, and blood drops were shooting on it. Next to him was Mu Yanran, who was wrapped in the Imperial Spirit Bag, and blood drops were shooting on the Imperial Spirit Bag, also with a crackling sound. Suddenly, Ling Youdao's eyes focused. Yanran, be careful, Mu Yanran. Ling Youdao pushed Mu Yanran a foot away, and the blood drops that were supposed to shoot on her were shot on Ling Youdao's thigh. Ah! The huge pain made her scream out. Brother Youdao? Mu Yanran was shocked and hurried to Ling Youdao's side. Are you okay? Ling Youdao's face turned pale, and he smiled. Fortunately, it didn't hit the bone. The next moment, a shrill scream rang out. Ah! Ling Youdao and others looked over and saw that Ling Ding, who was in the early stage of foundation building, was shot by a blood drop, and then more and more blood drops were shot on his body. After a while, he was shot into a sieve. Seeing this, Ling Yuangu was instantly furious. Golden elixir, so what? Kill. The golden eagle sword instantly grew larger and chopped straight at the head of the water giant. The water giant's eyes were focused on him. Before the golden eagle sword got close, it was shot to the ground by blood drops. Ding ding ding, ding ding ding. The surrounding blood drops shot towards Ling Yuangu and were blocked by Ling Yuangu's top-grade defensive spiritual weapon. However, the huge force pushed him back continuously, and the spiritual light of the top-grade defensive spiritual weapon became dimmer and dimmer. Recommended Immortal Sect Novel by Zuinman. The author of this book has recommended the immortal family cannot drift more than once. You can go and have a look. Chapter 161, The Power of the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Formation. Ling Yuangu injected mana into the second-grade superior defensive spiritual weapon crazily, but the second-grade superior defensive spiritual weapon still could not withstand the dense blood drops shooting like rain. The spiritual light on it became dimmer and dimmer. I am afraid it will not last long. Once the second-grade superior defensive spiritual weapon is shattered by the blood drops, Ling Yuangu will be seriously injured even if he does not die under such dense blood drops. Ling Yuansheng was anxious, but he was unable to save himself and had no power to rescue Ling Yuangu. The three were closest to the water giant, so the blood drops shooting at them were the most. Seeing this, Ling Jixin gritted his teeth and flew towards Ling Yuangu, who was retreating continuously. The silver horn spear rotated at high speed on his head, forming a silver light, which crushed the blood drops that were shooting towards him. Yuangu, be careful. As soon as the voice fell, there was a bang sound, and the second-grade superior defensive spiritual weapon protecting Ling Yuangu was shattered. Ling Yuangu was shocked. What? Suddenly, there was a whoosh sound, and a drop of blood shot onto his thigh, and a piercing pain instantly spread throughout his body. Ling Yuangu gritted his teeth and didn't scream. Ling Jixin was very anxious, and the silver horn spear flew out in an instant, coming to the sky above Ling Yuangu, and a large piece of silver spear light blocked the blood drops that were shooting down. A layer of golden light shield rose from Ling Jixin's body, and the blood drops that seemed powerful could not hurt him. He was a fake pill cultivator, and although the blood rain was powerful, it was difficult to hurt him. After a while, the blood rain stopped, and there were blood puddles everywhere on the top of King Mountain. The blood and mud mixed together to form blood mud, which made people numb. Ling Yuangu's face was pale, and he forced a smile. Uncle Jiu, it's a good thing that you took action, otherwise my nephew would be afraid this time. Before he finished speaking, the broken light shield of the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array instantly became brighter and extended to the surroundings, covering an increasingly larger area. It's bad. The cultivators of the 9 families were shocked. They had experienced the power of the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array before, and thinking about it now made them feel terrified. Retreat quickly. It was unknown which family's foundation building cultivator shouted, and the cultivators of the 9 families were instantly in chaos, turning around and fleeing towards the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array. Seeing more and more people fleeing, Jindan Clan and Jindan King showed hesitation. Even if the two of them wanted to stop them, they would definitely not be able to control the current situation. Besides, the two of them were also in danger in the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array, and they also wanted to retreat, so they didn't want to stop them. The two looked at each other, nodded in tacit understanding, and then turned around and rushed out of the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array. The protective light shield recovered quickly, and if they hesitated for a moment, they might not be able to escape. Seeing the coalition forces of the 9 families retreating instantly, Jin Hongai's face on the cloud darkened. And he looked at the light curtain of the formation that was merging with a gloomy face. His fists creaked as he was clenched, and he was filled with indescribable anger. Damn it! Ling Yuansheng looked at the light curtain of the formation that was merging above his head, and couldn't help laughing wildly. Ha ha ha! God will not destroy my Cangli Ling family. God will not destroy my Cangli Ling family. One by one, the Cangli Ling family cultivators cried with joy, trembling with excitement, their eyes filled with tears of hope, because they saw the hope of repelling the invaders. Hearing this, Jin Hongai shouted, rampant. He stood on the head of the water giant, and the water giant carried him to the sky above the Cangli Ling family cultivators. The 2 huge water palms swung and grasped at will, hitting and injuring, and grabbing and killing. The speed was too fast, and it was difficult for the key training cultivators to make a correct response. Only the foundation-building cultivators could avoid the huge water palms. Help, elder, save us! Seeing the Cangli Ling clan cultivators being beaten to a bloody mess by the huge water palm, and hearing the soul-touching cries for help, the foundation-building cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan had bloodshot eyes, angry faces, and clenched hands. Ling Jixin flew out, holding the silver horn spear in his hand, and his aura rose steadily. Jin Hongai, how can the people of the Cangli Ling clan be killed so easily? Do you really think that there is no one in my Cangli? Hearing this, Jin Hongai couldn't help laughing, his eyes full of teasing. A mere fake damn cultivator, do you really think you are invincible? How dare you speak so arrogantly in front of this real person? If that old thing Ling Chuan was still alive, I would indeed be afraid of the Cangli Ling clan. But now, at this point, he paused and deliberately strengthened his tone. Now, the Cangli Ling clan is in my hands. If I want it to live, it can live. If I want it to die, who dares to save it? As soon as the voice fell, the broken light curtain of the 7 absolute sealing spirit array finally completely merged into a whole, and a huge pressure instantly covered the entire top of King Mountain. Jin Hongai only felt his body sink, frowned slightly, and then stabilized his body. He was slightly surprised. What a strong suppression ability. Jin Hongai also knew that the 7 absolute sealing spirit array had the ability to suppress cultivation, but he thought he was very strong, and even if he was suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit array, he would not be suppressed too much. But from the current situation, even a Jindan early stage cultivator who had been in the Jindan stage for many years would be suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit array, and his cultivation strength would be greatly weakened. Ling Jixin looked at Jin Hongai with a dark face, and a smile appeared on his angry face for the first time. How about the 7 absolute soul sealing formation of my Cangli Ling clan? He shook the silver horn spear, and the tip of the silver horn spear pointed at Jin Hongai, saying, you can only exert more than 80% of your cultivation strength now. Let's see how rampant you are. Humph, I am a dignified Jindan cultivator. Even if I can only exert 80% of my strength, I can easily kill a small fake Dan cultivator like you. Ling Jixin was not in a hurry to argue, but just said lightly, we will know after a try. Then he saw the silver horn spear waving in his hand, and silver spear beams carrying innate spear energy shot towards Jin Hongai. Innate spear energy is the same as innate sword energy. Whether it is a person who has comprehended innate spear energy or a person who has comprehended innate sword energy, they all have strength far beyond the same level of cultivators. Compared with innate sword energy, there are even fewer people who have comprehended innate spear energy. There are countless cultivators in Bihei, but there are not many cultivators who have comprehended innate spear energy. Because there are not many monks who use guns as weapons, naturally there are even fewer monks who have comprehended the innate gun energy. Looking at the silver gun light coming at him quickly, Jin Hongai instantly sacrificed the cloud umbrella. The cloud umbrella was fully opened, blocking in front of him, and the silver gun light kept stabbing on it, making a bang 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 sound. Feeling the vibration from the cloud umbrella, even he, a Jindan's Henrin, couldn't help but feel shocked. The innate gun energy is really powerful, but it's a pity that you are just a fake elixir monk. If you have a golden elixir, even I would be afraid of you. Hearing this, Ling Jixin snorted coldly, fake elixir is better than golden elixir, it has been a fact since ancient times. Chapter 162, The Power of a Single Gun, a rolling flood coming from the sky. Before Ling Jixin formed the false elixir, he had already been nourished by Ling Chuan's golden elixir essence. Therefore, His strength after forming the false elixir exceeded that of ordinary false elixir cultivators. If the strength of a cultivator who had just formed the golden elixir was 10, then his strength at this time was 8. Since he started cultivating immortals, he used a spear as a weapon. Before forming the false elixir, he had already had some understanding of the innate spear energy. Because of this, he was able to kill a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building when he was in the middle stage of foundation building. However, the difficulty of comprehending the innate spear energy was too high. Even with his understanding and love for spears, he still could not comprehend the complete innate spear energy. This was until he formed the false elixir, emptied his mind, and miraculously comprehended the innate spear energy he had dreamed of. At that moment, Ling Youdao was extremely excited, because the stronger his strength was, the greater the possibility that Cangli Clan would survive this difficult time. With his false elixir cultivation, plus the innate spear energy he had comprehended, his strength was not much better than that of a cultivator who had just formed the golden elixir, but it was not much worse. The biggest difference between Ling Youdao and the Jindan cultivators is their lifespan. You should know that Jindan cultivators can live for 600 years, while Jindan cultivators can only live for 300 years, which is half of their lifespan. Even so, making Jindan is still the dream of countless foundation-building cultivators, but there are very few foundation-building cultivators who really have the opportunity to make Jindan. Because making Jindan requires the demon peel of a third-level monster, and each third-level monster is not only powerful, but also commands many first- and second-level monsters. Even if a Jindan cultivator takes action, it is not easy to kill, let alone a foundation-building cultivator. In more than 500 years, only 2 third-level monsters have been killed in Tianyuan Islands, which shows how difficult it is to obtain the demon peel of a third-level monster. Cangli is a Jindan early-stage cultivator who has been in the Jindan for many years. Like Ling Youdao, he is already a Jindan early-stage cultivator who is infinitely close to the Jindan middle stage. What the two lack is just a chance to break through the Jindan middle stage, but such a chance is hard to come by. Ling Youdao has been standing still for more than 300 years, but still has not found such an opportunity to break through to the middle stage of the golden collar. If Cangli does not have a great opportunity, this is his highest achievement. Now, he is suppressed by the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, and the strength of his cultivation that can be exerted is less than 90%. Although Ling Youdao is still not his opponent, he can protect himself under Cangli's attack. And this is enough, because he is not the real force to solve this crisis. The real solution to the crisis of the Cangli family is the Zhuanshu giant turtle that is seeking a breakthrough at the bottom of the lake. Then Ling Youdao threw the silver-horned spear in his hand, and the silver-horned spear turned several circles and then floated above his head. The spear body was wrapped in a silver-white light ball, and it seemed that there was an innate spear energy shooting out of the spear body, flowing and raging in the silver-white light ball. Ling Youdao hand formula changed, and the silver-horned spear suspended above his head continued to grow, and soon reached nearly 3 feet long. At the same time, a huge shadow of a silver-horned spear appeared above his head. The shadow of the silver-horned spear was more than 7 feet long, wrapping the entire silver-horned spear inside. Countless innate spear keys shot out from the silver-horned spear, filling the entire silver-horned spear shadow, as if the silver-horned spear shadow was composed of countless innate spear key. In just 1 or 2 breaths, the innate spear key in the silver-horned spear shadow became more and more, and the momentum it exuded became more and more terrifying. The battle between 2 cultivators who had reached the Jindan stage was so powerful that it was simply not something that a foundation-building cultivator could resist. So Ling Yuansheng and Ling Yuangu flew away early on their swords, hovering in the distance, watching the 2 sides of the battle with nervous expressions. Feeling the powerful momentum released by the shadow of the silver-horned spear, Cangli became formal for the first time since the battle. The spells in his hands changed, and the cloud umbrella continued to grow larger. The clouds in the sky were pulled by the cloud umbrella and continued to gather towards it, forming a thick cloud wall that blocked the water giant. Ling Youdao, let me see the power of your gun, whether it can shake my spiritual art of 100 waters gathering, magic, spiritual art. Among them, magic has the lowest cultivation requirements, is the simplest to cultivate, and has the largest number. Any cultivator can cultivate it. Spiritual art is different from magic. It has a certain spirituality and its power is far more powerful than magic. Although spiritual art is powerful, its number is far less than that of magic. Each spiritual art is an important inheritance of various forces and individuals, and will never be easily passed on. The Cangli Ling family and the Fufang Jin family are both Jindan families with hundreds of years of history, but each family has only one spiritual art inheritance. It can be seen that spiritual art is rare, and it is not surprising that Jindan cultivators fight for the inheritance of spiritual art. Although spiritual art is good, not everyone can practice it. Only Jindan cultivators can practice spiritual art. Although Ling Jixin is a fake Dan cultivator, he can also practice it. It's a pity that he has not formed a fake dam for a long time, and he has not had time to practice the inherited spiritual art of the Cangli Ling family. He stared at Jin's Hongai closely, and the previous scenes flashed through his mind like a slideshow. Ling Chuan was ambushed, his instructions to himself, and the ruthless slaughter of the younger generations of the family. Scene after scene, one after another, made Ling Jixin want to eat his flesh and drink his blood. "Grandpa, today it's your turn to protect the Cangli Ling clan." His eyes instantly turned red, and he roared, and pushed his hands forward fiercely. Drilling sky spike, the sound was like a bell, rolling and echoing. With a whoosh, the shadow of the silver horn spear wrapped with a silver horn spear and shot out at an extremely fast speed. The speed was so fast that even the foundation building cultivators could hardly judge it. A series of booming sounds made people's eardrums hurt. This was because the speed of the silver horn spear was too fast, and it rubbed against the air, causing an explosion. In the blink of an eye, the silver horn spear shot at the cloud wall, and the huge impact shook the gathering clouds apart, directly launching the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation. The cloud dispersed, and the cloud umbrella hidden behind it was revealed. Although it was large, it only covered half of the water giant's head. The water giant was like a live target, exposed in front of the silver horn spear. Puff the gun body shot into the water giant's body, and the innate spear energy that made up the silver horn spear's phantom instantly dispersed and flowed to all parts of the water giant's body. Head, chest, fingers, palms, arms, stomach, thighs, calves, feet. Every part was ravaged by countless innate spear energy, and countless bubbles rose, as if the entire water giant was not made of water, but of weak bubbles. Goo 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 goo, goo 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 goo, bang! The water giant in the sky exploded, and a large amount of river water poured down instantly, as if the sky was broken. The entire top of Qingkang Mountain was covered by a flood, and countless Cangli Ling family monks struggled in the water. The flood flowed out of the 7 deadly soul sealing formation and rolled down the Qingkang Mountain. The 9 family monks who escaped also suffered from the flood. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, In the future, we will use the blood of Jin's people to wash away today's shame. Jin's Hongai was also affected by the sudden explosion of the water giant, and was flung back more than 10 feet before he could stabilize his body. Although the water giant was suppressed by the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation like him, and could only exert more than 80% of his strength, it was not something that a fake pill cultivator could solve with one blow. But Ling Jixin did it, destroying the spiritual art that Jin's Hongai had displayed with one shot. At this time, he still couldn't believe that this was the strength that a fake pill cultivator could burst out. He is just a fake pill cultivator, why is he so strong? Jin's Hongai roared wildly in his heart, but his face looked very calm, as if Ling Jixin's shot just now had no effect on him at all. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out 2 words, the Cangli Ling family is indeed full of talents, and I have seen it today. Ling Jixin waved his right hand, and the silver horn spear in the distance turned into silver light and flew back to his hand. He held the silver horn spear, shook the spear body, and pointed the spear tip at Jin's Hongai in the distance. Jin's Hongai, as long as I, Ling Jixin, am still alive, I will never let the plan of the Fufang Jin clan succeed. Hearing this, Jin's Hongai looked up to the sky and laughed, ha 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 ha. After laughing, he looked at Ling Jixin with a serious face and said, I admit that the Cangli Ling clan did win today's battle, but next time, you won't be so lucky. He flicked his sleeves and immediately turned into blue light and fled through passage out of the formation. A series of spiritual lights shot at him from all directions, but they couldn't hurt him at all. After a while, Jin's Hongai safely escaped from the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation. Seeing this, the surviving Cangli Ling clan monks couldn't help but cheer excitedly. They were glad to repel the invaders and to survive this genocide war. In the sky, Ling Jixin finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then a sense of weakness swept over his body. His body softened and he fell to the ground below. Uncle Jiu, Ling Yuansheng was very anxious, and immediately flew forward on his sword to catch the falling Ling Jixin. The jubilant scene on the top of Qingkang Mountain suddenly became quiet. Everyone's face was full of tension, and their eyes were full of worry. They stared at Ling Jixin, who was supported by Ling Yuansheng. Ling Jixin had just shown his divine power and smashed the water giant with one shot, forcing back the Jindan's Henren Jin Chang'ai, saving the lives of the Cangli Ling clan and hundreds of Cangli Ling clan cultivators. Unknowingly, he had surpassed Ling Yuansheng, replaced Ling Chuan's position, and became the spiritual pillar of the clan. At this time, if he had any accident, the confidence that the Cangli Ling clan had just built up would inevitably disappear in an instant. In that case, the Cangli Ling clan would experience another bloody storm, which was something that no foundation-building cultivator of the Cangli Ling clan wanted to see. Ling Yuansheng asked nervously, "Uncle Jiu, are you okay?" Ling Jixin stretched out his right hand and waved it. "I'm fine, just too tired. Help me to recuperate for a few days." Ling Yuansheng laughed at the clansman and said, "The third elder is fine, just too tired, just a few days of recuperation. The clansmen don't need to worry." Hearing this, hundreds of Cangli Ling family cultivators instantly became jubilant again. After a while, the elders of Cangli Ling family gathered together, and Ling Jixin sat cross-legged to meditate and recuperate. Looking at the top of Qingkang Mountain, which was first sprayed by the blood rain and then washed by the flood, the key training children of the family were saving themselves and each other. Ling Yuanqing sighed, his eyes full of loneliness and helplessness. "My Cangli Ling family's 500 years of operation is now almost gone. If the vision is enlarged to the entire Qingkang Mountain, the impact of its destruction is even more serious." At the beginning, when the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation was shrinking its defense range, the monks of the Cangli Ling clan moved the spiritual plants and important objects at the foot of the mountain, on the mountainside, etc. to the top of the Qingkang Mountain. Before, although the coalition forces of the 9 families broke into the 7 Absolutes sealing spirit formation, they were suppressed by the monks of the Cangli Ling clan. Whether it was the spiritual plants or other important objects, there was almost no big loss. The blood rain broke the restrictions of many important places. Under the scouring of the rolling flood, many buildings were destroyed, especially the spiritual plants, which were washed away by the flood along with the soil. It can be said that except for a few high-level spiritual plants, all other spiritual plants are gone. It should be known that the growth of spiritual plants is not achieved overnight. Even low-level spiritual plants need several years, more than 10 years, or even decades of growth. In other words, with the destruction of these spiritual plants that have been planted for many years by the flood, Cangli Ling clan's decades of hard work are all gone. Even if they survive this difficult time, it will be impossible to achieve self-sufficiency in spiritual medicine in the next few decades, and they need to continue to purchase from the outside world. In this case, the Cangli Ling clan would be like being strangled by someone, which is extremely detrimental to the development and growth of the family. Ling Yuansheng nodded. "Yes, even if we survive this crisis, our Cangli Ling clan will be seriously injured. It will take many years to recover to the state before the war." Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng said in a resounding voice, "It's gone, so be it. As long as people are still here, our Cangli Ling clan will not collapse. One day, what we have lost will be regained by us." "That's right." Everyone looked over when they heard the voice. Ling Jixin opened his eyes and looked at everyone present. "One day, our Cangli Ling clan will break through Fufeng Island and wash away today's shame with the blood of the Jin clan." Hearing this, everyone was deeply moved. Ling Jixin stopped talking. "Okay, now we need to do the aftermath work." He looked at Ling Yuansheng and continued, "Yuansheng, you are good at handling family affairs, so the aftermath work will be handed over to you." He then reminded him, "At this time when the family is in danger, you must not be careless. You must be careful. If you make a mistake, my Cangli Ling family may be in danger of destruction." Today, the Cangli Ling family is like a person walking on a tightrope, with cliffs on all sides and front and back. A small mistake may cause them to fall. Ling Yuansheng is a cautious person and understands what Ling Jixin said the most. He nodded and said, "Uncle Jiu, rest assured and cultivate yourself. Your nephew will definitely handle it." "Yes, Ling Jixin nodded. He was still very relieved about this fifth nephew. Then Ling Yuansheng made arrangements for the elders, and then the elders left to deal with their own affairs. It is said that outside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, the cultivators of the 9 families were first defeated by the cultivators of the Cangli Ling family, and then encountered a flood. Many monks failed to react in time and were washed away by the rolling flood. The floodwaters poured down the mountain, and various collisions were inevitable. Many key training monks died. There are less than 500 key training monks alive now, and only 8 of the 11 foundation building monks are left. The loss is serious. 2 families had no one to lead the living key training monks because their foundation building monks died in battle. Just as the monks were looking frustrated, a blue light escaped from the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation and flew directly towards the monks of the 9 families. Chapter 164. Everyone said, "There will be no more trouble forever. Jin Chong'ai is so terrifying." The blue light disappeared, and Jin's Hong'ai appeared in front of everyone. Although they had thousands of complaints about him in their hearts, the cultivators still said respectfully, "Greetings, immortal." Jin's Hong'ai glanced at the cultivators who looked like a defeated army, frowned and said, "What? Have you lost your fighting spirit?" Hearing this, no one responded. The 2 consecutive defeats have indeed greatly reduced the fighting spirit of the cultivators. The previous defeat was still justifiable, but this time, with the support of Jindan Immortal Jin's Hong'ai, they still returned with a big defeat, which is really unacceptable. Seeing everyone like this, Jin's Hong'ai snorted coldly and said, "Waste." For his words, everyone did not dare to refute, but instead obeyed him. Jin's Hong'ai flicked his sleeves, walked to a rock, and crossed his legs to cultivate. In the previous battle, he was under the pressure from the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, and his own consumption was not small. The 8 foundation building cultivators looked at each other, and kept winking at each other. After a while, Jindan Clan stood up and said with a smile, "My father's words were just angry words, don't mind it, fellow Taoists." At this delicate moment, when the Fufang Jin family still needs the 8 families, they must keep them stable. Jin's Hong'ai played the villain, so naturally someone needs to play the hero, otherwise the families will be alienated, and it will be impossible to destroy the Cangli Ling family. Just kidding, even if they have opinions about Jin's Hong'ai, they can't say it in front of the Fufang Jin family cultivators. The 6 foundation building cultivators from the 8 families smiled instantly and said, "How dare we be angry with Master Jin? Master Jin's teachings are reasonable. The 2 major defeats have made us lose our fighting spirit." Hearing this, Jindan Clan also sighed, and his fighting spirit was greatly reduced. The people of Cangli Ling family are really cunning. They even hide Ling Jixin, a fake Dan master. The foundation building cultivators nodded one by one, and cursed the senior leaders of Cangli Ling family in their hearts. The foundation building cultivator of Giant Jindan Clan punched the trunk of the tree next to him, and the whole tree shook, and the leaves fell like rain. They have been setting a trap for us since the beginning. The people of Cangli Ling Clan are indeed cunning. It's a pity that I only discovered it today. Jindan Clan said at the right time. What you fellow Taoists said is right. Cangli Ling Clan is so cunning now. When their strength is restored in the future, won't they be even more rampant? So we must take advantage of Cangli Ling Clan's weakness and destroy it in one fell swoop to eliminate the trouble forever. Although we are facing difficulties now, we must grit our teeth and get through it. The cultivators nodded one after another, agreeing with Jindan Clan's words in their hearts. Anyway, they have already formed an irreconcilable feud with Cangli Ling Clan, so they might as well grit their teeth and destroy Cangli Ling Clan. We can join forces, but this time Fufang Jin Clan must go all out, otherwise we will withdraw even if we leave Cangli Ling Clan as a hidden danger. In the previous 2 wars, Fufang Jin Clan did not go all out, which is an indisputable fact. In the opinion of several people, it was precisely because of the Fufang Jin family's reservations that the Cangli Ling family narrowly escaped death twice. Jindan Clan nodded and said, "Okay, but you 8 families have to contribute." Someone shook his head and said, "The Fufang Jin family is a big family with a big business. Even if they lose a few foundation building cultivators, they still have foundation building cultivators. Our 8 families can't afford the loss. Now we can only guarantee that each family will send 1 foundation building cultivator, and the number of key cultivating cultivators will be discussed later." Jindan Clan also knew the difficulties of the 8 families and knew that he couldn't push them too hard, otherwise it would have a counterproductive effect. Okay, the foundation-building cultivator of the giant Bingguan family continued. The key training cultivators of the Cangli Ling family have a large number of talismans and various elixirs. We must also be prepared in this regard. The foundation-building cultivator of the Chen family nodded. Yes, if we are still reluctant to give them up, how can the key training cultivators below defeat the key training cultivators of the Cangli Ling family? We have already lost a large number of key training disciples, and we cannot lose as much as before, Jindan said. Clan leader, I think what the fellow Daoist said is right. People are more valuable than some resources now. I understand what the fellow Daoists and my eldest brother said. We should indeed arm our key training cultivators well. The foundation-building cultivators nodded repeatedly, and Jindan continued. This time we must be fully prepared and swear to destroy the Cangli Ling family in one fell swoop and never have any future troubles. Several foundation-building cultivators said in unison, never have any future troubles. Jindan walked in front of Jin Zhongai, cupped his hands and said, Father. As soon as he opened his mouth, Jin Zhongai suddenly opened his eyes and asked, have you discussed everything? Jindan knew that his father had heard everything they had talked about before, but he still said respectfully, yes, Father. Well, we must prepare well this time and destroy the Cangli Ling family in one fell swoop. He was also angry that he was too arrogant at the time and did not listen to his son's advice. He mobilized the monks to come and launched a second genocide war against the Cangli Ling family without being fully prepared. Therefore, he now requires stability and must not make any mistakes again. My son understands. Jin Zhongai closed his eyes, and Jindan left after saying goodbye. He summoned the monks of the 8 families and arranged for them to return to their respective families, explain the situation here to the patriarchs of the families, and bring new reinforcements. The 8 people hurried back to the families because speed is the most important thing in war. Jin Zhongai discussed with Jindan and decided that Jindan would stay outside the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation to lead the remaining 9 families of key training monks to prevent the Cangli Ling family from escaping. Jindan immediately returned to Fufang Island, mobilized the monks and the family, and raised war resources to transport to Cangli Island. After they left Cangli Island, Jin Zhongai called Jindan. What do you want, old patriarch? Jin Zhongai stared at Jindan, his eyes full of fierceness. Take your men to kill all the ordinary members of the Cangli Ling clan on Cangli Island, and avenge the dead children of my Fufang Jin clan. In the 2 wars, the Fufang Jin clan lost hundreds of key cultivating cultivators. How could Jin Zhongai not be angry? He had been hiding it very well before, and now his true colors are revealed. Jindan stared at Jin Zhongai blankly, never thinking that these words would come out of his mouth. He said hesitantly, Old Patriarch, there is no need to involve mortals in the fight between cultivators, right? Besides, those mortals don't know anything. If it gets out, it will be bad for the reputation of my Fufang Jin clan. Go when I tell you to go. Jindan had no choice but to accept this task. However, when he just turned around, he heard Jin Zhongai behind him say, I have been merciful enough by not killing all the mortal members of the Cangli Ling family. Hearing this, Jindan's body trembled. Chapter 165, Healing the Wounds in a Proper Way and Releasing the Murderous Nature. Ling Youdao was seriously injured while saving Mu Yanran, so he was not assigned a family mission, but was asked to recover. He returned to the 7-room courtyard with Mu Yanran, but the entire 7-room courtyard was almost destroyed. The 7-room courtyard has an independent protective formation, and each small courtyard has its own restrictions, making it difficult for outsiders to enter. But the blood drops that shot down broke the formation that protected the 7-room courtyard, and also broke the restrictions of all the small courtyards, causing the rolling flood to sweep across the 7-room courtyard. After the flood, such a messy scene was left behind. The two came to Ling Youdao's small courtyard and saw that there was still water and mud in the courtyard. The stone table and stone bench were overturned and distributed throughout the courtyard. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the topaz snow pear tree in the courtyard is broken. Ling Youdao's eyes moistened instantly, and he rushed to the broken topaz snow pear tree, stretched out his hand to touch the topaz snow pear tree stump, and his heart was indescribably sad. This was left by his parents, and now it has finally gone with his parents. Mu Yanran said softly, Brother Youdao, it's just a tree, you don't have to be so sad. Hearing this, Ling Youdao raised his head and stared at Mu Yanran. Do you know who left this yellow jade snow pear tree? He didn't wait for Mu Yanran to speak, and said to himself, this was left by my parents. I can have today's cultivation, and this yellow jade snow pear tree has contributed a lot. When Ling Youdao's cultivation was still low, the yellow jade snow pear tree could bring him an income of 30 or 40 low-grade spirit stones every year. For a cultivator in the early and middle stages of key training, these low-grade spirit stones are already a lot, so he has more resources for cultivation. Mu Yanran said nervously, I'm sorry, Brother Youdao, I don't know this yellow jade snow pear tree is. Ling Youdao waved his hand and laughed bitterly. Okay, Yanran, I don't mean to blame you. Mu Yanran still felt very sorry, thinking that she shouldn't mention this matter and make her brother Youdao more sad. Oh no, the Zhuangguang bamboo I planted. Ling Youdao hurriedly ran to the backyard, and Mu Yanran followed closely behind him. Brother Youdao, you are still injured, don't worry. When he arrived at the backyard, he finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the Zhuangguang bamboo was still growing there. Without mental support, he felt weak. In order to save Mu Yanran, he was shot in the thigh by a drop of blood and suffered a serious injury. Mu Yanran stepped forward to support Ling Youdao. He forced himself to cheer up and looked at the Zhuangguang bamboo with a pale face. Brother Youdao, I will help you over. Ling Youdao nodded and said okay. With the support of Mu Yanran, he limped to the place where the Zhuangguang bamboo was planted. He saw that the bamboo nodes were deeply rooted in the soil, and there were dense tentacles around them, which tightly bound the surrounding soil to himself. Because of this small Zhuangguang bamboo was not washed away by the rolling flood and remained intact. Then a small Zhuangguang bamboo grew out of the bamboo joint, about 2 feet long, with several green leaves on the stretched bamboo branches. Bamboo grows the fastest, and it may even grow 10 feet tall overnight. But Zhuangguang bamboo is different, it grows very slowly. When Ling Youdao came back from the Wandu Sea, he buried the bamboo joint with spores here. More than 10 years have passed, and it has only grown to 2 feet long, which shows how slow it grows. Brother Youdao, is this the Zhuangguang bamboo that makes you anxious? Mu Yanran didn't read as many books on spiritual plants as Ling Youdao, so she didn't know much about Zhuangguang bamboo. Ling Youdao nodded, yes, Zhuangguang bamboo is a second-level low-grade spiritual plant with a hard texture, which is very suitable for refining spiritual tools. This is what I transplanted back from the Wandu Sea. At that time, I spent a lot of effort to get it, and I almost lost my life. Fortunately, it is still there, otherwise I would have lost a lot. Mu Yanran agreed with what Ling Youdao said. Okay, Yanran, help me to the cave for cultivation. The 7th room was destroyed by the flood and was in a mess. It was not suitable for him to recuperate. Oh, okay. Mu Yanran helped Ling Youdao out of the courtyard and soon came to a cave. Ling Youdao waved gently at the stone door of the cave, and the stone door of the cave slowly rose. The two slowly walked in. On the other side, Jindan brought the King cultivators of the Fufang Jin family to the foot of Qingkang Mountain. There were more than 100 people standing sparsely. A middle-aged man in front asked in confusion, Grand Elder, what are we going to do? A person next to him also asked, yes, Grand Elder, what are we going to do? Not only were the two of them confused, but everyone was confused. This was obviously not a retreat, so what could it be? Hearing this, Jindan did not hide anything and said immediately, according to the order of the old patriarch, kill all the mortals on Cangli Island and avenge the tribesmen who died in the battle. What? How could this be? Everyone looked at Jindan in shock, their faces full of disbelief. So many key training monks were dispatched just to slaughter mortals. Besides, is it necessary to involve mortals in the fight between immortal cultivators? Jindan had expected the reactions of the crowd. After all, he, a foundation-building monk, was shocked when he suddenly heard this order, let alone these key training monks who had only lived for a few decades. Jindan waved his hand and interrupted everyone. Okay, follow your orders. Everyone had no choice but to nod and say, yes, sir. Jindan said, 3 people in a small team, 10 people in a large team. The small team goes to the village, and the large team goes to the county. Yes, more than 100 key training monks formed freely and soon formed more than 20 large teams and small teams, and then split up and left quickly. Watching the teams of Fufang Jin's cultivators leave, Jindan murmured to himself, the old patriarch's order cannot be disobeyed. But when they arrived, many villages and towns were destroyed by the flood, and there were many cases where entire villages and towns were left without a single survivor. In several county towns, there were still many people alive. In desperation, the King cultivators of the Fufang Jins could only gather in several county towns. One person complained, "I don't know what the old patriarch was thinking. He actually sent out so many of us to kill a few mortals." Yes. This is obviously killing a chicken with a butcher knife. Hearing this, the leader waved his hand and said, "Okay, we can't do what the superiors ordered, so let's do it." They chose to poison and kill, because only in this way could they better complete the task. I saw a cloud of poisonous fog floating in, and the ordinary people of the Cangli Ling's clan didn't notice it at all. When they realized something was wrong, the ordinary people of the Cangli Ling's clan in the county town had already inhaled a lot of poisonous fog. Countless screams and wails rang out, and they could be heard from miles away. Not long after, all the mortal members of the Cangli Ling family who inhaled the poisonous fog died. Chapter 166. The fight continues until one is dead. Only ruthless people can be unworthy. 3 King cultivators from the Cangli Ling family were on duty to prevent the cultivators from the 9 families outside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation from launching a sneak attack. Suddenly, the 3 of them looked outside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation with vigilance at the same time, and at the same time offered the magic tools in their storage bags. What are they doing here? Let's take a look first. With the instructions of the 3, several King cultivators from the Fufang Jin family walked outside the protective light shield of the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation and smiled at the 3 people inside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation. Immediately, under the gaze of the 3 Cangli Ling family cultivators, several King cultivators from the Fufang Jin family slapped the storage bags on their waists, and suddenly a row of bloody heads appeared along the edge of the protective light shield of the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, probably dozens or even hundreds of them. The 3 people inside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation were shocked, and their eyes were full of doubts. What are they doing? Suddenly, one of them had bloodshot eyes and yelled at a Fufang Jin family cultivators outside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, "Despicable, why do you have to involve ordinary people in the grudges between cultivators? What? These are all ordinary people." The other 2 were shocked and looked at the Fufang Jin family cultivators outside the formation with anger on their faces, wishing they could cut them into pieces, eat their flesh and drink their blood. Looking at the 3 people in the formation, several King cultivators of the Fufang Jin family laughed loudly, feeling indescribably happy. One of them pointed at the 3 people in the formation and said arrogantly, "You killed so many of our clansmen. This is the price you should pay, you beasts. What's the difference between you and the demon cultivators?" Hearing this, several King cultivators of the Fufang Jin family laughed even more arrogantly. "Haha, it's just killing some mortals, what's the big deal?" Immediately, the man smiled, "If I tell you that all the ordinary people of the Cangli Ling family on this island have been killed by us, what kind of expression will you have? What, beast?" In response to this, the several Fufang Jin family cultivators outside the formation did not get angry but laughed. Inside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation, the Cangli Ling family cultivator who was in the lead forced himself to suppress the anger in his heart and said, "You keep an eye on it here, I will report to the elders immediately." "Okay, go ahead." The man sacrificed his flying magic weapon and jumped up. The flying magic weapon carried him and immediately flew to the place where the Cangli Ling family elders were meeting. Soon they arrived, and the man jumped off the flying magic weapon. Without time to retract the flying magic weapon suspended in the air, he stumbled into the meeting hall. He kept shouting, "Elder, elder, something bad has happened, something bad has happened." Several people in the hall looked at the person who rushed in with confusion. Ling Youdao, who was sitting cross-legged at the top, immediately asked, "Calm down first, and then talk slowly." "Seventh elder, the people of the Fufang Jin family are simply beasts. No different from the demonic cultivators." As soon as these words came out, they instantly attracted the attention of the elders present. Ling Yuansheng said, "Tell me in detail, elders, the people of the Fufang Jin family killed all the ordinary people on Cangli Island." "What?" Several elders instantly slammed the table and stood up, their eyes filled with anger. Ling Yuangu said angrily, "How dare the people of Fufang Jin's family do this?" Ling Yuansheng gritted his teeth and said, "Fufang Jin's family is sure to defeat my Cangli Ling's family, otherwise they would not do this." Ling Yuangu snorted coldly, "Humph, the outcome is still uncertain." The man said at the right time, "Elders, you can find out by going to the light curtain of the formation, Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng and his companions immediately flew out of the hall on their swords and came to the light curtain of the seven absolutes sealing spirit formation, where they saw a row of bloody heads along the edge of the light curtain. Ling Yuansheng's fists clenched so hard that they made a clattering sound, and his fingernails pierced into his flesh, but he was completely unaware. Fu Fangjin's family. Fu Fangjin's family. Fu Fangjin's family. My Cangli Ling's family will fight you to the death. To the death. To the death. Outside the seven absolutes sealing spirit formation, Jin Daking stood in front of Jin Chang'ai. He said respectfully, Old Patriarch, the Cangli Ling clan has already put those heads into the seven absolute soul sealing formation. Jin Chang'ai nodded, it's as expected. Then he said, Humph, how can the Cangli Ling clan not pay a price for killing so many people from my Fu Fangjin clan? Hearing this, Jin Daking sighed and said, it's just that I'm worried that once this matter gets out, it will not be good for the reputation of my Fu Fangjin clan. Hearing this, Jin Chang'ai laughed, no ruthlessness, no hero, no narrow-mindedness, no gentleman, just push this matter to the previous flood. Many cultivators died in the flood, let alone mortals. What if the Cangli Ling clan has evidence? It's still useless if other forces don't believe it. The water giant may not look big, but the water contained in its body is more than what it shows. A large amount of river water poured down at the same time, flooding many towns and villages. Under such a rolling flood, mortals are not prepared and will inevitably suffer heavy casualties. There were many cases where entire villages and towns were not spared, and the key training monks of the Fu Fangjin family were just the last straw that broke the camel's back. Jin Daking's eyes lit up. This was indeed a good idea. Jin Chang'ai urged, use each family to come as soon as possible. Yes, the people of the Cangli Ling family collected the heads of the clan members. After counting, there were more than 100. Although the heads were few, they could give us a glimpse of the overall situation. Although only 30% of the ordinary people of the Ling family lived on Cangli Island, it was also a big blow to the entire family. The Lingyan life people buried all the heads together, gathered hundreds of clan members, and held a solemn oath meeting. Even if the Cangli Ling family monks hated the people of the Fu Fangjin family in their hearts, they still hid in the seven absolutes sealing spirit array. Because the top leaders of the Cangli Ling family knew that it was not the time to take revenge. And what was needed was forbearance. Time passed quickly, and soon a month passed. Support from the 9 families arrived one after another. There were 14 foundation-building cultivators alone. The Fu Fangjin family also recruited 4 foundation-building cultivators, which means that the number of foundation-building cultivators reached an astonishing 18. In addition, there were 1,200 key training cultivators, of which 300 were recruited cultivators. Jin Chang'ai no longer had the 3rd level forbidden bead, so he naturally couldn't take shortcuts to break into the 7 absolute soul sealing array. Now, he could only gather the power of all the cultivators and forcibly break through the 7 absolute soul sealing array before he could destroy the Cangli Ling family. Jin Chang'ai was seen standing in the air outside the 7 absolute soul sealing array. Behind him were 18 foundation-building cultivators hovering on their swords. In the distance, there were 1,200 key training cultivators lined up in an orderly manner. In the 7 absolute soul sealing array, Ling Jixin also stood on the air, and Ling Yuansheng and other foundation-building cultivators hovered behind him on their swords. Below him were more than 500 key training cultivators from the Cangli Ling family, lined up in an orderly manner. The 2 groups of monks confronted each other across the light shield of the 7 absolute soul sealing array, and a war was about to break out. Chapter 167 The Third Order Monster, the Giant Black Water Turtle. Inside the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation, the faces of the Cangli Ling clan cultivators were extremely solemn. Whether in terms of strength at the key training level, strength at the foundation building level, or top combat power at the Jindan level, the coalition forces outside the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation were stronger than the Cangli Ling clan. Compared to the cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan, the coalition forces outside the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation seemed very relaxed. Strong strength makes people confident, and this is the case with them now. Some of them even clenched their fists and secretly swore in their hearts that they must kill a few more Cangli Ling clan cultivators to avenge those dead clansmen and wipe out the previous shame. More than 1,200 people were eager to try, just waiting for Jin Chang'ai's order. Looking at the coalition forces outside the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation, Ling Jixin looked at Jin Songhai and said in a deep voice, "You really don't give up. In a month, you have suffered 2 consecutive defeats, and you dare to gather people to attack." Hearing this, Jin Songhai's face was angry. It was really a shame that he, a dignified Jindan's Hanren, was defeated here. HMPH, kid, stop talking nonsense. I will destroy the Cangli clan today. As soon as the words fell, the 1,200 Kigan cultivators who were neatly lined up outside the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation shouted in unison, "We will destroy the Cangli clan, we will destroy the Cangli clan." The continuous shouts were like a boom, and they were really full of momentum. Seeing this, the faces of the Cangli clan cultivators in the formation were not only solemn, but also a trace of worry in their eyes. Obviously, the coalition forces outside the formation came well prepared this time. Unlike the previous 2 times, they relied on their strong strength and blindly launched attacks on the Cangli clan. Ling Youdao said to Ling Yuansheng beside him quietly, "The people of Fufang Jins have become smarter." Ling Yuansheng whispered back, "After 2 consecutive defeats, even the dumbest person should understand where the problem lies, not to mention the people of Fufang Jins." Ling Youdao nodded and said with some regret, "It's a pity that they have become smarter, which is very disadvantageous to us." Ling Yuansheng also sighed and thought to himself, "If it really comes to that, I can only use the dark blue true fire and fight to the death with my uncle Jin Songhai." At that moment, a look of determination flashed in his eyes. But he hoped that he would never come to that step, because it meant that Canglilings had no other choice but to perish together with a coalition outside the formation. Listening to the roar of the people outside the formation, the determination in Ling Jixin's eyes became stronger. At this time, 2 figures came from behind on swords. The elders of Cangli looked over and found that they were Mu Yanran and Ling Youdao. Youdao greets the 3rd great-grandfather, Mu Yanran also said respectfully. Yanran greets the 3rd great-grandfather. Ling Jixin nodded and asked in confusion, "Aren't you recovering from your injuries? The blood rain attack of the water giant was indeed powerful." Ling Jixin, who had just established his foundation, was shot to death. Ling Youdao and Ling Youdao were both shot by blood drops. But Ling Youdao was a late-stage foundation cultivator, and his recovery ability was not comparable to Ling Youdao, who had just established his foundation. In a month, Ling Youdao stabilized his injuries and was barely able to participate in this battle. But Ling Youdao's face was still very pale, and he only recovered the ability to move freely, so it was difficult for him to participate in such a battle. So he was not forced to join the battle. Mu Yanran's grandfather Mu Yu killed a late-stage foundation cultivator of the Fufang Jin family by burning his lifespan, which was a great help to the Cangli family. The Cangli family owed him a favor. She was Mu Yu's only descendant, and Ling Jixin couldn't repay kindness with enmity and put Mu Yanran in a dangerous place where she was sure to die. Therefore, she was not forced to join the battle. Ling Youdao believed that he was a member of the Ling family in Cangli. When the family was in danger, how could he live in disgrace and hide in the back to watch the elders and the younger generations fight bloody battles with the enemy? Therefore, he insisted on joining the battle, even if it was with his own flesh and blood. It would be good to block the enemy's attack for an elder. Mu Yanran certainly didn't want Ling Youdao to come, but Ling Youdao was determined. There was no other way, so she had to follow him to protect the injured Ling Youdao during the battle. Ling Youdao looked at Ling Jixin and said with a firm look in his eyes, "There are no cowards in Cangli, how can they live in disgrace?" Ling Jixin laughed, "Okay, there are no cowards in Cangli, how can they live in disgrace?" Ling Youdao and Mu Yanran retreated on the sword and hovered beside Ling Yuansheng. Looking at his grandson, Ling Yuansheng said, "Good job." When the Kigan cultivators of the coalition outside the formation finished their shouts, Ling Jixin looked at Jin Songhai and said, "There is not a single coward in my Cangli clan. If you want to destroy my Cangli clan, then you have to step over the bodies of each of us." Upon hearing this, Jin Songhai sneered and immediately gave an order, "Kill." In an instant, more than 1,000 cultivators rushed to the light curtain of the 7 absolutes sealing spirit formation. Just as they were about to launch an attack, the spiritual energy of the entire Qingkang mountain shook violently and converged towards a large lake on the top of the mountain. After a few breaths, a powerful pressure instantly swept across the entire Qingkang mountain, and all the animals or monsters that passed by were subdued. Immediately, a blue light slowly rose from the lake to the sky, and this blue light was wrapped in a layer of golden light, which was particularly different. The Kigan cultivators couldn't tell what it was for a while, But the foundation-building cultivators and the Jindan's Henren recognized it at a glance. It was a demon pill, and it was a third-level demon pill. When a second-level demon beast breaks through to the third level, its demon pill also reaches the third level. A third-level demon beast is comparable to a human Jindan's Henren, and its demon pill is obviously different from the demon pills of first and second-level demon beasts. Regardless of the attributes of the demon pill, the essential color does not change, but the outside will be wrapped in a layer of golden light, similar to the golden pill of a cultivator. The faces of the Cangli Ling family were excited, and some even cheered and shouted without caring about their image. Looking at the demon pill floating in the air, Ling Jixin couldn't help but say, "Finally, I've waited for it." Outside the Seven Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation, looking at the suspended demon pill and feeling the momentum that permeated around him, Jin's Honggai's fists clenched and made a clattering sound. No one knew better than him what that meant. The foundation-building cultivators of the coalition looked at each other, neither advancing nor retreating, and didn't know what to do for a while. The next moment, a huge figure suddenly flew up, opened his bloody mouth, and swallowed a demon pill floating in the air into his stomach. The huge figure turned in the air and flew in front of the formation of the Cangli Ling family's key training cultivators. Its huge body crashed to the ground, and the ground shook violently. The bodies of the Cangli Ling family monks staggered, and several of them even fell to the ground. After a burst of dust, a giant turtle was revealed. The diameter of the tortoise shell alone was more than 20 feet, and the overall diameter was probably no less than 30 feet. Its size was as big as a small mountain, blocking the Cangli Ling family monks and the coalition monks. The giant turtle raised its head and roared at Ling Jixin, who was standing in the air. In the sky, Jin's Hongai gritted his teeth and said, "Third-level demon, Zuanshu giant turtle, Ling Chuan, you are really calculating." Chapter 168, Cangli Ling family, immortal. The Zuanshu giant turtle is the spiritual beast of the Cangli Ling family. It has reached the second grade upper grade and is very powerful. This is the Zuanshu giant turtle in the memory of every Cangli Ling family cultivator. However, it was not seen in the two previous battles to exterminate the clan, which inevitably made the family cultivators who did not know the inside story guess. At this moment, the long-standing confusion was finally solved. It turned out that the Zuanshu giant turtle, the spiritual beast of the clan, had broken through. And it really succeeded. Now it is a third-grade monster comparable to Jindan's Henren. Its strength is even stronger than that of the fake Dan cultivator Ling Jixin. For the cultivators of the Cangli Ling family, this is undoubtedly a huge surprise, and everyone's faces filled with smiles. Haha, we are saved, our family is saved, heaven will not destroy our Cangli Ling clan, heaven will not destroy our Cangli Ling clan. Listening to the excited words of the clan members, Ling Jixin could not help but excitedly said, "Cangli Ling clan, immortal." As soon as these words came out, all the Cangli Ling clan members shouted in unison, "Cangli Ling clan, immortal. Cangli Ling clan, immortal." The Cangli Ling clan cultivators, who originally had low momentum, reached their peak in an instant, soaring into the sky, intimidating all directions. Jin's Hongai, who watched all this, roared, "Kill!" Although the Cangli Ling clan already had the third-level lower-grade great monster Zuanshu giant turtle, it had just broken through and was no match for Jin's Hongai, a cultivator in the early stage of the Golden Core. Although Jin's Hongai was no match for the Zuanshu giant turtle and Ling Jixin, he was able to contain these two forces and prevent them from supporting the battle below. The coalition had 18 foundation-building cultivators, while the Cangli Ling clan had only 14 foundation-building cultivators. The coalition army has 1,200 key training monks, while the Cangli Ling clan has only a little over 500 key training monks. In comparison, the coalition army is obviously stronger than the Cangli Ling clan. As long as Jin's Hongai holds back the Zuanshu giant turtle and Ling Jixin, the coalition army may not be unable to defeat the Cangli Ling clan and then destroy it. Therefore, Jin's Hongai wants to fight, but he will know whether he can destroy the Cangli Ling clan after fighting. At the same time, Ling Jixin, who was standing in the air, also roared, "Kill!" In an instant, the coalition key training monks outside the formation attacked the light shield of the Seven Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation at the same time, and the Cangli Ling clan's key training monks bypassed the Zuanshu giant turtle and rushed to the light curtain of the formation. Some held magic weapons, and some held talismans in their hands. They kept attacking the coalition monks outside the formation. The coalition monks outside the formation had to guard against and avoid the attacks of the Cangli Ling clan monks, and also had to divide their energy to attack the light curtain of the Seven Absolutes sealing spirit formation. However, the attacks of the coalition monks would be blocked by the light curtain of the Seven Absolutes sealing spirit array. Before the Seven Absolutes sealing spirit array was broken, their attacks could not hurt the Cangli Ling family monks at all, and they soon fell into passive position. Fortunately, the coalition monks were numerous, and a few casualties were nothing. The next moment, the coalition's foundation-building monks flew out with swords and immediately joined the battle. With the participation of 18 foundation-building monks, the light curtain of the Seven Absolutes sealing spirit array thinned, and the speed was much faster under the continuous attack. But for the entire Seven Absolutes sealing spirit array light curtain, this was still very slow, and it took a long time to attack to break through this layer of light shield. Ling Yuansheng and others also flew out with swords and attacked the coalition's foundation-building monks. For a while, the Cangli Ling family monks and the coalition monks fell into a stalemate. The cloud umbrella was suspended above Jin Songhai's head, and several water dragons were winding around him. Ling Jixin looked at Jin Songhai, holding the Zuinian sword, and the sword body was shining with yellow light. On the ground, the Zuanshu giant turtle suddenly spurted out a mouthful of water, and then flew towards Jin Songhai. The water formed a rolling torrent, rushed out of the Seven Absolutes sealing spirit formation, and dispersed dozens of allied monks. Ling Jixin was only a fake Dan cultivator, and his strength was far behind Jin Songhai. He did not dare to confront Jin Songhai head-on. The Zuanshu giant turtle was a demon beast, with the blood of Baksha in its body. Although it had just broken through to the 3rd level, its strength was not weak. Even if it was not a match for Jin Songhai, a cultivator of the early Jindan stage, it could still hold Jin Songhai back. Jin Songhai pointed at the Zuanshu giant turtle and said, "Go." Before he finished speaking, several water dragons circling around him suddenly flew out, one of which flew towards Ling Jixin, and the remaining 3 flew towards the Zuanshu giant turtle. Ling Jixin threw out the Zuinil sword in his hand, and the Zuinil sword drew a trace of afterimage and cut on the dragon head of the water dragon. The dragon head was cut off in half, scattered into raindrops, and fell downwards. The water dragon that lost half of its head quickly made up for it and rushed towards Ling Jixin with its remaining force. Ling Jixin could only keep retreating while controlling the Zuinil sword to chop the water dragon. After a few sword strikes, the water dragon was exhausted and shattered. On the other side, seeing 3 water dragons coming towards him, the Zuanshu giant turtle roared and shot out 3 water columns from its body. The water columns collided with the 3 water dragons and collapsed instantly after canceling each other out. The Zuanshu giant turtle is a water-attributed monster beast. It is good at controlling water. Its ability to control water is not inferior to Jin Songhai, and it is even slightly stronger than him. Ling Jixin flew to the Zuanshu giant turtle, and the man and the monster looked at Jin Songhai. What a powerful Zuanshu giant turtle! Jin Songhai saw a flash of blue light in his hand, and suddenly there was an extra flying sword. This sword is a top-grade spiritual weapon, and it is his most reliable thing besides the Yunluo umbrella. The sword danced in the air with a blue glow and started a fight with the Zuinun sword. Hunk, hunk, hunk. The speed of the 2 swords was so fast that even the foundation-building cultivators could not see clearly. It was as if a blue light and a yellow light were intertwined and collided with each other. Ling Jixin's face was solemn, and the spells in his hands kept changing. The Zuinil sword was a low-grade magic weapon, and the sword was only a top-grade spiritual weapon. But Ling Jixin's cultivation was too low to bring out the true power of the Zuinil sword, causing the dignified magic weapon to be suppressed by the spiritual weapon. The Zuanshu giant turtle relied on its huge body and directly crashed into Jin Songhai, who was controlling the flying sword. The Yunluo umbrella flew out and grew larger in an instant, gathering the surrounding clouds and blocking the Zuanshu giant turtle's path. Bang! The Zuanshu giant turtle crashed into the Yunluo umbrella, and the gathered clouds were instantly shattered, and then the Yunluo umbrella crashed into Jin Songhai. The Zuinil sword failed to fight the flying sword, and its spiritual light dimmed and flew back to Ling Jixin's hand. Jin Songhai immediately recalled the flying sword, which became larger, and slashed a 3-meter-long blue light at the giant black turtle. Seeing this, the giant black turtle was not panicked at all, and leaned forward to reveal its shell. Dang! The blue light slashed on the shell, leaving a very shallow mark, and then disappeared. Jin's Hongai was shocked. What a hard turtle shell! The flying sword in the air kept swinging, and blue sword lights slashed at the giant black turtle, but were all blocked by the shell on its back. The turtle shell is very hard and is one of the preferred materials for refining defensive magic weapons. The giant black turtle is already a third-level low-grade monster. The strength of the turtle shell on its back is close to that of a low-grade defensive magic weapon. Under its control, how could Jin's Hongai easily break it? Chapter 169. It's a pity that there is no one in the Jin family, and Cangli gets the chance to catch his breath. When Ling Youdao, the giant black water turtle, and Jin's Hongai were fighting fiercely, the battle below was also very tragic. As the allied monks fell one by one and never stood up again, their momentum became increasingly low, and the light curtain of the 7 absolute sealing spirit array became increasingly dim. Seeing this, Jindan Clan shouted with a hint of excitement, "We will soon be able to break through the 7 absolute sealing spirit array." Hearing this, the allied monks, whose momentum had already dropped sharply, instantly gained momentum. Under the encouragement of the monks behind them, they rushed forward one after another. Break the formation and divide up the treasures on the top of Qingkang Mountain. Yes, divide up the treasures. In the 7 absolute sealing spirit array, the virtual tripod was suspended above Ling Yuansheng's head, emitting a powerful momentum. Ling Yuansheng changed the spell in his hand, and the virtual tripod suspended above his head instantly flew out, smashing towards a casual cultivator in the early stage of foundation building with a force of 10,000 kilograms. Seeing a large cauldron with a fiery red glow smashing towards him, the casual cultivator in the early stage of foundation building was shocked. He immediately controlled a defensive magic weapon to resist the virtual cauldron that was smashed, and dodged to the side at the same time. He had personally seen a cultivator of foundation building who was not much different from him in strength being killed by this large cauldron with a fiery red glow. Although that was the result of a sneak attack when the opponent was caught off guard, it also showed the power of the virtual cauldron. He thought he had no strength to withstand a virtual cauldron that was smashed, so he could only run away. Apart from Jin's Hongai, the giant turtle of Zhuangshu and Ling Youdao, Ling Yuansheng was the strongest person. Not to mention the cultivators in the early stage of foundation building, even ordinary cultivators in the late stage of foundation building could fight two at once like Ling Youdao did. The virtual cauldron was controlled by Ling Yuansheng, so it was not so easy to dodge it. When the two collided, the defensive magic weapon was easily knocked away. What? The casual cultivator of foundation building was stunned. He had never expected that the defensive magic weapon he relied on the most would be so vulnerable. The virtual cauldron immediately changed its direction and smashed diagonally towards the casual cultivator in the early stage of foundation building who was still in a daze. With a loud thud, the casual cultivator in the early stage of foundation building fell to the ground below. The virtual tripod circled and slowly flew back to the top of Ling Yuansheng's head. Seeing Ling Yuansheng kill two foundation building cultivators one after another, the coalition foundation building cultivators outside the formation became more and more afraid of him. The war continued. The casual cultivators were fighting for the treasure on the top of Qingkang Mountain. The 8 families were worried that they would be bitten by the snake instead of being killed. The Fu Fang Jin family simply wanted to destroy the Cangli Ling family so as to unify the Liuyan Islands. As for the Cangli Ling family, they had no way out and could only defend the 7 absolute sealing spirit array. Time passed quickly. When the light of the stars and the moon disappeared and the early sun gradually rose, the coalition forces attacked fiercely for nearly a day and night without caring about casualties, and the 7 absolute sealing spirit light curtain finally shattered. It's broken, it's broken, the formation is finally broken, ha ha ha, the treasure of Qingkang Mountain, your grandpa Zhao is here. The emotions that had been suppressed for a long time were released at this moment, and the scattered cultivators in the coalition were like greedy ghosts seeing gold ingots. This wind instantly swept the coalition inside, and they followed the scattered cultivators and rushed into the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation together. On the other hand, the Cangli Ling family monks lined up together, ready to fight. In front of the formation, an old man with white hair holding a magic weapon, with a look of determination in his eyes, shouted, "Kill!" Hearing this, more than 500 Cangli Ling family monks shouted at the same time, "Kill!" The sound was like thunder, shaking all directions. In an instant, the fighting spirit and murderous aura twisted into a majestic momentum, rising up, and rushing straight towards the coalition monks who were rushing to kill. The coalition monks were stunned at first, and then rushed towards the Cangli Ling family monks in a swarm. Seeing this, the neatly lined Cangli Ling clan monks were like a sharp sword, tearing a gap directly and killing into the coalition monks. 200 or 300 flying swords collided in the air, and the sound of various magic weapons clashing continued. Magic attacks, talisman attacks, the whole battlefield flashed with colorful lights. And accompanied by these were screams one after another, and one person fell down and never stood up again. Although the Cangli Ling clan had few people, they were well rested and waited for the enemy to tire out. At this time, their spirit was still sufficient, and their combat power was not much weakened compared to normal circumstances. On the other hand, because of the nearly one-day battle before, the coalition monks were not as strong as before the battle, both in terms of physical strength and mind and body, and their combat power was weakened a lot. But fortunately, the coalition had a large number of people and fought on equal terms with the Cangli Ling clan monks. It was hard to say which side would have the last laugh. The moment the light curtain of the 7 absolute sealing spirit array was broken, the coalition's foundation building monks and the Cangli Ling clan's foundation building monks fought together. The ability of foundation building monks to withstand pressure is stronger than that of key training monks, and the elixirs in their storage bags are not comparable to those of key training monks, so the combat power of the coalition's foundation building monks has not weakened much. The Cangli Ling family only has 14 foundation building monks, including Ling Youdao, who was seriously injured. Although Ling Yuansheng killed 2 foundation building monks from the coalition still has 16 foundation building monks, and the Cangli Ling family is still weaker than the coalition. He is powerful and can deal with 2 late-stage foundation building monks from the Fu Fang Jin family alone. Although Ling Yuangu was injured, he also forcibly restrained a late-stage foundation building monk from the Su family. Ling Youdao sat cross-legged on Hongayu's back, and Mu Yanren stood next to him. Hongayu, also known as Luan. More than 10 years have passed, and under his careful training, the little Luan at the time has now become a first-class upper-grade monster beast, and it is a very powerful one among the first-class upper-grade monster beasts. Hongayu spread its wings and flew over the battlefield, and the 2 foundation-building monks from the coalition attacked it from the left and right. Fortunately, Mu Yanren and Ling Youdao blocked all the attacks for it. After a while, the 2 monks were bloodthirsty and the battle entered a white-hot stage. In the sky, Jin's Hongai was slightly proud. Haha, it seems that the Cangli Ling family is going to be exterminated today. Ling Jixin stood on the back of the Zuanshu giant turtle with a serious face. Even if the Cangli Ling family is already at a disadvantage, he will not give up until the last moment. Suddenly, a strong momentum rose from below. The 2 looked in surprise and saw Ling Yuangu controlling the golden eagle sword with great power. The late foundation building monk of the Su family was not aware of it for a while and was beaten back step by step. Jin's Hongai snorted coldly, burned the essence in blood. The next moment, 5 more of the same momentum rose. On the battlefield, Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanqing, Ling Yuansheng, Ling Yuanqi, and Ling Dingshan burned their essence in blood at the same time, and their strength increased instantly. In just 3 or 2 moves, they completely suppressed their opponents. The suppressed foundation building cultivators did not want to burn their blood and essence to fight with them, but to withdraw from the battlefield immediately to save their lives first. Ling Yuangu and the other 6 did not want to burn their blood and essence, but they had to do so as the Cangli Ling clan was about to be destroyed. The 6 people freed up their hands, which was equivalent to the Cangli Ling clan having 6 more foundation building cultivators in an instant. They immediately rushed into the battlefield of the key training cultivators and kept harvesting the lives of the coalition key training cultivators. The more they killed, the more chaos the coalition was in. The cultivators of the Cangli Ling clan took the opportunity to kill them. Jin's Hongai was furious and felt like he was disappointed with his opponent. He wanted to save the situation, but was stopped by Ling Jixin and the Zuanshu giant turtle. Seeing this, he said very unwillingly, "It's a pity that the Jin clan has no one. So you, the Cangli Ling clan, got this breathing opportunity in vain." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. When I return to Cangli Island, it will be the day when the Ling family will be destroyed. Jin Zhonggai and Ling Jixin shouted at the same time, "Stop!" The voice was so loud that it spread throughout the entire Qingkang Mountain. The battlefield, which was originally filled with a sound of fighting, was suddenly so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. The surviving monks on both sides were alert to each other, and at the same time, they looked curiously at the two people in the sky. The coalition monks breathed a sigh of relief. Today, they finally recognized the Cangli Ling family monks. They were really too scary, and they were simply indestructible. The Cangli Ling family monks were full of doubts. It was clear that they had just occupied an overwhelming advantage. As long as there was a period of time, they would definitely kill the coalition monks. Once the coalition monks suffered heavy casualties in this battle, it would be difficult to organize such a large-scale war of genocide in a short period of time. They didn't understand why Ling Jixin suddenly ordered to stop. Looking at the tragic battlefield, the bodies of the dead clan members, and the Qingkang mountain top that was destroyed by 60% to 70%. Elders such as Ling Yuansheng understood that the Cangli Ling family could no longer afford the consumption. On the other hand, the 8 foundation-building families in the coalition did not go all out because they were helping the Fufang Jin family to destroy the Cangli Ling family. However, once the Cangli Ling family pushed the 8 foundation-building families into a dead end, if they fully supported the Fufang Jin family, the Cangli Ling family would definitely not be able to support it. Besides, even if they won today, how much strength would the Cangli Ling family have left to deter forces outside the Liuyan Islands? With foreign enemies all around, it would be unwise to kill 1,000 enemies and lose 800 of their own during a civil war. Therefore, since Jin Zhonggai intended to withdraw his troops, he would stop the war. Jin Zhonggai waved his hand and said, "Retreat." Hearing this, the coalition monks carried the bodies of their companions and quickly withdrew from the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit formation, and then quickly withdrew from Qingkang Mountain under the organization of the foundation-building monks. Looking at the coalition retreating so quickly, Jin Zhonggai's eyes were filled with deep disappointment. Immediately, he glanced at the Cangli Ling family monks below, and a powerful golden elixir pressure covered him. Ling Jixin was furious. "Jin Zhonggai, you've gone too far." The Zuanshu giant turtle also roared, and the aura of a 3rd-level lower-grade great demon covered the sky above the Cangli Ling family cultivators, blocking Jin Zhonggai's golden elixir pressure outside. The next moment, a momentum formed by the will of everyone rose up, penetrated the aura of the Zuanshu giant turtle, and faced Jin Zhonggai's golden elixir pressure with neither servility nor overbearance. The Cangli Ling family cultivators shouted in unison, "There are no cowards in Cangli." Jin Zhonggai instantly withdrew his own golden elixir pressure and laughed loudly, as if mocking himself. He looked at the sky above his head and said, "Ling Chuan, you win again this time." His eyes suddenly turned cold, and his eyes were full of sinisterness. But the Cangli Ling family will not always be so lucky. Jin Zhonggai turned into blue light and escaped from Cangli Island in the blink of an eye. "Ling Jixin, when I come to Cangli Island again, it will be the time when the Cangli Ling clan will be destroyed." Although Jin Zhonggai's people left, his words still echoed on the top of Qingkang Mountain, and every Cangli Ling clan cultivator heard it clearly. The Cangli Ling clan cultivators had just won a great victory, and their momentum was strong at this time. Such provocative words made the Cangli Ling clan cultivators feel very uncomfortable. If they hadn't estimated that the person who spoke was a Jindan's Henren, they would have spoken harshly. Ling Jixin looked at the family cultivators and ordered, "Rest where you are." After continuous fighting, the Cangli Ling clan cultivators were already exhausted. Before, it was their will and responsibility that supported them. Now that the crisis was temporarily resolved, and they received Ling Jixin's order to rest, many Cangli Ling clan cultivators collapsed directly on the ground. The elders of the Cangli Ling clan were not much better. They fell back to the ground, collected their respective magic tools, and then sat cross-legged on the ground to meditate. Hongyu fell to the ground, Mu Yanran jumped down, and then helped Ling Youdao down. Ling Youdao looked at Hongyu and took out a healing pill. Hongyu opened her mouth, Ling Youdao put the pill in his hand into it, and it swallowed it into its stomach. "You are also seriously injured, just rest and recover." Hearing this, Hongyu lay on the ground, closed her eyes, and began to refine the healing pill in her stomach. Mu Yanran said with concern, "Brother Youdao, you should also sit down and heal your wounds." He was already injured, and just now he had a battle with the foundation-building cultivators of the coalition forces. It can be said that he was injured on top of the injury. Without 4 or 5 years of recuperation, it would be impossible for him to fully recover. Ling Youdao nodded, then sat cross-legged on the ground, with his back against Hongai's wings, took out 2 healing pills, gave one to Mu Yanran, took one himself, closed his eyes, and refined the medicinal power in the pill. Seeing this, Mu Yanran felt relieved, so she sat cross-legged next to Ling Youdao, took the healing pill, and closed her eyes to refine the medicinal power in the pill. Xuanjia, or the giant black turtle, hovered in the sky above Qingkang Mountain, and Ling Jixin sat cross-legged on its shell. He was not healing his wounds, but was monitoring the surroundings and protecting the Cangli Ling clan monks who were recuperating below. The bay of Cangli Island was originally the dock of the Cangli Ling clan, but now it was occupied by the coalition forces. There were dozens of ships docked in the sea, large and small, and all kinds of ships. The coalition monks who withdrew from Qingkang Mountain gathered here. They were noisy and really a group of defeated soldiers. A blue light flew from the top of Qingkang Mountain and stopped above the coalition forces. The blue light dissipated, revealing Jin's Hongai. Looking at the group of people in front of him, Jin's Hongai was furious. He shouted angrily, "How dare you!" There was a hint of Jindan pressure in this voice, which made everyone dizzy and uncomfortable. After a while, the dizziness disappeared, and everyone reacted. The cultivator of the Fufang Jin family said, "Greetings to the old patriarch." The other cultivators said respectfully, "Greetings to the immortal, a bunch of disgraceful things, hurry up and get on board and get out." Hearing this, the coalition cultivators hurriedly boarded the ship, scrambling for the first place, fearing that if they were left behind, the Jindan immortal would be unhappy and kill them at will. Soon, all the cultivators except the Fufang Jin family boarded the ship, and under the watchful eyes of Jin's Hongai, they hurriedly left the waters of Cangli Island. Immediately, Jin's Hongai retracted his gaze and looked at the Fufang Jin family. "Useless things," he snorted coldly, turned into blue light, and fled in the direction of Fufang Island. The remaining Fufang Jin family cultivators looked at each other, and for a moment they didn't know what to say. Jin Dequan felt that he had lost face in front of his father, and his face was gloomy and terrible. "Get on board, retreat." Hearing this, the cultivators of the Fufang Jin family boarded the ship one by one, and did not dare to fight for it. After all, the family elders were obviously in a bad mood at this time. Soon, all the Fufang Jin clan monks boarded the ship, and the ship slowly sailed out of the port. An hour later, at the top of Qingkang Mountain, the Cangli Ling clan monks stood up, and their spirits were obviously much better. Ling Jixin said, "Clean up the battlefield." Hearing this, the Cangli Ling clan monks looked at the ruined Qingkang Mountain top, and they felt indescribable. Recommend as Iangsha family novel Yi's Immortal Cultivation Record. The author of this book has recommended this book more than once. You can go and have a look. Chapter 171. The heavy rain cannot erase everything. Repair the 7 deadly soul sealing array. Qingkang Mountain, a sacred place for the Cangli Ling clan monks, and a place of spiritual sustenance. Today, it is a place of broken walls, collapsed rocks, fallen trees, and bare soil and rocks everywhere, no longer the paradise on earth in the past. Then one by one, the Cangli Ling clan monks shuttled among them, collecting the remains of the dead clan members, gathering them together, and burying them together. The scattered storage bags, magic tools, jade bottles containing elixirs, etc. were also collected together and put into storage after being counted. The Cangli Ling clan has experienced 3 consecutive wars, and the accumulation of many years has been almost consumed, so these resources are extremely precious. An hour later, although there was no remains on the top of Qingkang Mountain, there were still pools of blood, and the air was filled with a strong smell of blood. Ling Jixin tapped the tortoise shell of Xuanjia with one foot and flew to the center of the original battlefield. He waved his hand, and his robe fluttered. The clouds in the distance came with the wind and gathered above the top of Qingkang Mountain. After a while, the clouds that gathered were 7 or 8 feet thick and turned into a large dark cloud. After a while, lightning and thunder flashed in the dark clouds, and heavy rain poured down instantly. Da da da, da da da, da da da. The raindrops hit the ground, like a noisy music, mixed with a loose soil, forming a rolling torrent. The small streams gathered into the middle stream, and the middle streams gathered into the big stream, like a wild horse running away, rushing towards the foot of Qingkang Mountain. The heavy rain came quickly and went just as quickly. In just one stick of incense, the thunder stopped and the rain stopped. The scorching sun broke through the clouds and rained over the top of Qingkang Mountain again, forming a colorful rainbow on the top of the mountain. Looking at the top of Qingkang Mountain again, looking at the previous battlefield, the terrain has changed. The loose oil and gravel were either washed away by the flood or sank downwards and became compact. All the Cangli Ling clan cultivators looked up at Ling Jixin in the sky, with admiration in their eyes. Even the foundation building elders were no exception. Although they could do it, they would never be as easy as Ling Jixin, who could draw dark clouds and thunder with a wave of his hand. Ling Jixin looked at Ling Yuansheng and said, "Yuansheng, the next thing will be left to you to arrange." Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng immediately replied respectfully, "Nephew obeys your order." Immediately, he looked at Ling Yuansheng and said, "The most urgent task at the moment is to repair the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array. Sixth brother, you are a formation master, so this matter will be handed over to you. As long as the Cangli Ling clan has it, just ask for it." The 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array was broken by the coalition cultivators in the previous battle, which means that there is no barrier on the top of Qingkang Mountain at this time, and outsiders can come and go freely. Although the coalition forces have withdrawn, there is no guarantee that they will strike back at any time, so it is imperative to repair the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array, and the sooner the better. Don't worry, Uncle Jiu, don't worry, Brother Wu. I will definitely repair the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array in the shortest possible time. Ling Yuansheng nodded and said, "Thank you for the hard work, sixth brother." After fighting for nearly a day and a night, Ling Yuansheng burned his own blood, and his body is now very weak. Ling Yuansheng also wanted him to have a good rest, but he was the only second-level formation master in the entire Cangli Ling family who could repair the damaged 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array. Dingai, Dingshan, Dingzong, there are immortals. Hearing this, the 4 people replied in unison, "Here, before the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit formation is repaired, you lead people to patrol Cangli Island and the nearby 30-mile sea area. If you find anything abnormal, send people to report it in time." "Yes," Ling Yuansheng reminded, "act quickly." Immediately, the 4 people each led 30 monks who were not injured or were only slightly injured to leave Qingkang Mountain and distribute them in the 4 directions of Cangli Island and the nearby sea area. "The rest of you, clean up all places in Qingkang Mountain." Yes, most of the buildings on Qingkang Mountain were destroyed and had to be cleaned up before they could be rebuilt on the original foundation. After everything was arranged, Ling Yuansheng said to Ling Jixin in the sky, "Uncle Jiu, nephew has arranged it." Ling Jixin nodded and said, "Yes, I trust you to do the work. Before the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array is repaired, Zuanjia and I will stay here all the time. You can do the work without worry." At this time, the real work was done by those cultivators who were not injured. The injured cultivators were recuperating on the top of Qingkang Mountain. This also included Ling Yuangu, Ling Yuanxiang and several others who burned their blood essence, as well as Ling Youdao who was injured before. One day later, Ling Yuansheng personally went to Ling Yuansheng to ask him about the 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array. The 7 Absolute Sealing Spirit Array has a total of 7 array bases, 1 main array base and 6 auxiliary array bases. The 6 auxiliary array bases surrounded a large circle, and the main array base was located in the center of the large circle, and it was right at the top of Qingkang Mountain. There was a top-grade defensive spiritual weapon at each of the 6 auxiliary array bases. These 6 defensive spiritual weapons were the main source of defense for the 7 Absolutes Sealing Spirit Array. At the base of the main array is a top-grade spiritual weapon, the 5-colored ring, which can release a wide variety of 5-element spell attacks. The attack output of the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array comes from this. Sixth brother, how long will it take to repair the 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array? You also know that the sooner it is repaired, the safer our Cangli Ling family will be. Fifth brother, I naturally know this, but, just what? Sixth brother, you can tell me what difficulties you have. As long as the family can do it, I will definitely agree. Even if it cannot be done, I am willing to take people to try. 3 of the 7 array bases were destroyed, but this is not the most critical thing. The most critical thing is that the array device of an auxiliary array base was severely damaged and can no longer support the operation of the entire 7 Absolute Soul Sealing Array. Ling Yuansheng was stunned and asked, "The array device of the auxiliary array base was seriously damaged? Can it be replaced with another spiritual device?" Ling Yuansheng nodded and said, "Yes, but at least it has to be a mid-grade defensive spiritual device, but it is best to use a top-grade defensive spiritual device, which will make the operation of the large array more stable. Ling Yuansheng pondered for a while and said, there is indeed an unused top-grade defensive spiritual device in the family. I will go and get it for you. After saying that, he immediately flew away on his sword, went to the family treasury, and took out the top-grade defensive spiritual weapon. In fact, before the war, this top-grade defensive spiritual weapon was given to Ling Yuanxiang to use, and after the war, it was taken back to the family treasury. Ling Yuansheng left quickly and came back quickly. He handed the top-grade defensive spiritual weapon to Ling Yuansheng. This top-grade defensive spiritual weapon looked like a blue and white porcelain bowl. There was a thick fog in the bowl, and the bottom of the bowl could not be seen clearly. Ling Yuansheng laughed and said, "Fifth brother, this one is just right." Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng also smiled and said repeatedly, "It's good if it's suitable, it's good if it's suitable. Fifth brother, within 3 days, we will be able to repair the 7 absolute sealing spirit array." Ling Yuansheng immediately led several first-level formation masters of the Cangli Ling clan to repair the 7 absolute sealing spirit array. It took 2.5 days to repair the 7 absolute sealing spirit array. When the light shield of the 7 absolute sealing spirit array covered the top of Qingkang Mountain again, all the Cangli Ling clan cultivators breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 172, Loss of Personnel. After the 7 absolute sealing spirit formation was repaired, the safety factor of the Cangli Ling clan was greatly increased. Xuanjia returned to the big lake before, and Ling Jixin returned to the cave on the top of Qingkang Mountain. Both the man and the demon were injured and needed some time to recuperate. Of course, Jin's Hongai was also injured, otherwise he would not let the Cangli Ling clan go so easily. In addition to Ling Jixin, Ling Yuangu, Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanqing, Ling Yuansheng, Ling Yuanqi, Ling Dingshan, and Ling Youdao were also in seclusion to heal their injuries and ignored the affairs of the Cangli Ling clan. In other words, at this time, only the 5 elders Ling Dingai, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, Ling Dingxi, and Ling Yuxin cooperated with Ling Yuansheng to deal with the family affairs that were like a mess after the war. Especially Ling Yuansheng, he needed to worry about everything and was very busy. Mu Yanran thought that since she was not surnamed Ling, it was not easy to interfere in the family affairs of the Cangli Ling clan, so she did not participate in it, but was protecting Ling Youdao. Ling Yuansheng recalled the 4 elders Ling Dingai, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, and Ling Yaoxin, leaving only 20 Kigan practitioners to patrol the 4 corners of Cangli Island. On the top of a Qingkang mountain, in the temporary meeting hall of the Cangli Ling clan, Ling Yuansheng still sat high up, and Ling Dingai, Ling Dingzong, and Ling Yuxin sat cross-legged on the left below, and Ling Dingshan and Ling Dingxi sat cross-legged on the right. After the 3 consecutive wars before, the family suffered extremely heavy losses. Various things piled up and needed to be dealt with urgently. Today we are gathered together to discuss what to do. You can speak freely. Even if you say something wrong, it doesn't matter. Ling Yuansheng looked directly at Ling Dingshan and said, "Dingshan, then you speak first." Hearing this, Ling Dingshan held his mouth and replied in a muffled voice, "Dad, where do I have anything to say? You are deliberately making things difficult for my son." Okay, I won't ask you any more." Ling Yuansheng waved his hand helplessly, and then looked at Ling Dingai on the left below. "Dingai, you should tell me about it. First of all, we need to understand the family's losses, especially the loss of personnel." Ling Yuansheng nodded. "Well, I have sent people to count this, and there is a result. You can listen to it. First of all, Dixon, who is in the early stage of foundation building, died directly in the battle. The situation of the eldest brother, the second brother, and the third sister is not optimistic either, especially the eldest brother. He was injured before, and then burned his blood essence, and the time was the longest. The situation is very bad. The eldest brother he mentioned refers to Ling Yuangu, the second brother refers to Ling Yuanxiang, and the third sister refers to Ling Yuanqing. The situation of the 6 brothers, the 7th brother, Dingshan, and Youdao is much better, but it will take 4 or 5 years of training to fully recover. The 6th brother refers to Ling Yuansheng, and the 7th brother refers to Ling Yuanqi. Before the war, the family had 834 key training monks. Now there are only 412 left. They have all been injured to some extent. 10% of them are seriously injured, and 40% are slightly injured. Now every monk is very precious to the family. anyone who is injured must be treated as much as possible and given enough time to recover. In other words, we can only mobilize 200 key training monks. As for the mortals, when he said this, Ling Yuansheng couldn't help but sigh. After a while, he slowed down and continued, first there was a huge flood, and then the Jin family of Fufang deliberately hunted them. Of the nearly 250,000 mortal clansmen on Cangli Island, only 100 or so survived by chance, and most of them have gone insane. The scene is really horrible to watch. The Cangli Ling family has more than 800,000 mortal clansmen, 30% of whom live on Cangli Island, which is about 250,000 people. Listening to Ling Yuansheng's words, the five elders present clenched their fists. Ling Dingshan said angrily, faceless Jin clan, actually killed so many of my clansmen. I, Ling Dingshan, will never let it go. A sword energy rose from Ling Yaoxin's body, and he said angrily, Jin clan is so crazy that they wantonly killed my mortal clansmen. One day, I will kill them with thunderous means. People who are familiar with Ling Yaoxin know that he always behaves calmly in the face of anything. But at this time, he showed a slightly angry expression, which is enough to show how angry he is in his heart. Ling Yuansheng said, but fortunately, Fufang Jin clan is not so crazy that they have no scruples. There are still 600,000 mortal clansmen on the islands near Cangli Island. Although mortals are weak, they are the foundation of the world of immortal cultivation, so there is a consensus among immortal cultivators, that is, the disaster will not reach mortals. No matter how hard the immortal cultivators fight, they will not personally fight against mortals. If someone violates this consensus, in addition to being spurned by various forces, they will also be punished by the 5 major sects of Bihei. At the least, the strength will be greatly damaged, and at the worst, the sect will be destroyed. Jin's Honggai dared to give the order to let the Fufang Jin family monks kill the mortals on Cangli Island because these mortals had experienced a flood beforehand and suffered heavy casualties. If they kill them now, they can put the blame on the flood. In this way, without strong evidence, the 5 major sects will not trouble the Jin family. Although he performed the spiritual art of 100 waters gathering to make the water giant appear, the water giant was shattered by Ling Jixin, thus forming the flood. He cannot be blamed entirely, and Ling Jixin also has some responsibility. As for why he let go of the rest of the mortals of the Cangli Ling family, it was because he really couldn't find a good excuse. Without an excuse, he naturally didn't dare to kill them. As long as these 600,000 mortals are still there, it won't be long before the Cangli Ling family's monks will increase again, and it will only be a matter of time before the former splendor is restored. Ling Dingai nodded and said, yes, these 600,000 mortal clansmen are the family's future hope. Ling Dingzong said immediately, fifth uncle, it has been several years since Kekang Mountain was besieged. In these years, the family has not recruited a child from the mortal world. Now, the family is short of cultivators. Instead of letting children with spiritual roots waste their time in the mortal world, why not start the Ascension Conference to absorb a group of fresh blood and fill the family? Ling Yuansheng nodded and said, your proposal coincides with mine. It is indeed time to hold an Ascension Conference. For this Ascension Conference, we might as well relax the age limit. After all, many people are older. He pondered for a while and said, how about this? It will be decided that anyone over 10 years old and under 30 years old can participate in the Ascension Conference. As long as the spiritual roots are measured, they can immediately enter Kekang Mountain to cultivate immortals. Immediately, he said, Dingzong, since you proposed the Ascension Conference, you will be the host. Hearing this, Ling Dingzong stood up, bowed and replied, my nephew will not let my fifth uncle down and complete this mission successfully. Ling Yuansheng pressed his hand down, and Ling Dingzong sat back down. Chapter 173 The 10 Liuan families all suffered heavy losses. In addition to the serious loss of personnel, various materials were also seriously lost. Among them, the talismans were consumed the most. After 3 consecutive battles, there was almost nothing left. When the enemy is strong and we are weak, it is normal to use talismans frequently or even continuously to attack the enemy in order to better protect ourselves. Talismans played a very important role in the process. Fortunately, the Cangli Ling family had stockpiled a lot before the war, otherwise it is unknown when this war of genocide would have lasted. Although the consumption of elixirs was not as good as talismans, there were not many left. Among them, the elixir for restoring spiritual power consumed the most, followed by the elixir for healing. Before the war, in order to better defend the Cangli Ling family, The various magic tools and spiritual tools treasured in the Cangli Ling family's treasury were temporarily distributed to the various cultivators of the family, and returned to the family after the war. However, this war was too fierce, especially when the cultivators were resisting the blood drop attack. Many magic tools and even several spiritual tools were directly destroyed. In the subsequent battles, some magic tools were destroyed. The intact magic tools were directly put into the family treasure house, while the damaged magic tools and spiritual tools were collected, and the family refiners extracted the useful materials from them and then refined them into new magic tools. The Cangli Ling family did not have a refiner who could refine spiritual tools, so they could only extract the useful materials from the damaged spiritual tools. After this period of time, they would ask someone to use the extracted materials to refine them again. 3 consecutive wars killed more than 400 key cultivating monks. If these people still have living relatives who are cultivating immortals, their relics will be returned to their relatives, and the family will also issue pension resources, which is a kind of comfort and encouragement. But if these people have no relatives who are cultivating immortals, then their relics will be taken back by the family, and the family does not need to issue pensions. The former situation is obviously less than the latter, because there is no need to issue a large amount of pensions, but instead a lot of relics of the monks who died in the war were taken back, which slightly increased the family's meager assets. However, no one was happy about this, because it meant that too many monks of the Cangli Ling family died in the war. More than 70% of the buildings on the entire Qingkang mountain were destroyed, either due to floods or the energy of the war. Rebuilding various buildings on Qingkang mountain, such as the Sutra Library, the Hall of Good Deeds, and the Hall of Crafts, etc., and the abandoned spiritual fields need to be reused to plant various spiritual medicines. These things are all major events related to the development of the Cangli Ling clan. They are imminent and need to be resolved as soon as possible. If no active action is taken, the Cangli Ling clan will inevitably decline. In this regard, Ling Yuansheng immediately made arrangements. Ling Dingai and several others each found someone to be responsible for a major project, and he himself took charge of the overall situation. After the discussion, the Cangli Ling clan was like a machine, suddenly running at high speed. Because they are all immortal cultivators, their speed is far beyond that of ordinary people, and it is simply different every day. Ling Dingzong sent key training monks to various small islands near Cangli Island to convey the news of the Ascension Conference. The mortals of the Cangli Ling clan have not seen the immortals of the family for many years. At first, they were all confused, but later they gradually learned that the immortals of the family were fighting with foreign immortals. The mortals of the Ling clan of Cangli were worried. Would the outside immortals cause trouble for them? If the family immortals were defeated, how would the outside immortals deal with them? Even if the outside immortals gave them a way out, it would be very difficult for them to live in peace without the protection of immortals in this dangerous place where first-level monsters often cause trouble. Previously, a huge flood occurred on Cangli Island, which made the mortals of the Ling clan of Cangli on nearby islands even more frightened, and even a large-scale rebellion broke out. Most of the rebellions on the islands were suppressed in time, and only the rebellions on a few small islands were successful. The return of the family immortals made hundreds of thousands of mortals of the Ling clan of Cangli breathe a sigh of relief. Regarding the rebellion, Ling Dingzong believed that it was a matter between mortals, and as long as it did not affect the Ascension Conference, the monks of the family would not intervene. This also made several rebel leaders breathe a sigh of relief, and then they actively promoted the Ascension Conference. In fact, there was no need to promote it. The Ascension Conference was a good thing for the cart to leap over the Dragon Gate. Who wouldn't want to try it? Just 1 month later, 60,000 to 70,000 mortals gathered in the Immortal Valley at the foot of Qingkang Mountain, waiting for the family's immortals to test their spiritual roots. In fact, there were far more mortals of the Cangli Ling family between the ages of 10 and 30, but many of them had already been tested once before and knew that they did not have spiritual roots, so they did not come to participate. Of course, there were also some who were unwilling to give up, thinking that they had made a mistake in the last test and that they actually had spiritual roots, so they wanted to try their luck. Ling Dingzong led 30 family key training monks and immediately began to test the spiritual roots of mortals. It took nearly a month to test all 70,000 to 80,000 mortals, and those who did not have spiritual roots tested returned one after another. Only 81 people had spiritual roots tested, and 3 of them had dual spiritual roots. These 81 children who had spiritual roots tested were immediately taken to Qingkang Mountain. After arranging a temporary place for them to live, Ling Dingzong went directly to find Ling Yuansheng. Uncle Wu, this is the list of the 81 newly recruited people with spiritual roots. Ling Dingzong handed the list to Ling Yuansheng for review. Ling Yuansheng took the list, looked at it, and nodded. It's beyond my expectation. There are actually 3 children with dual spiritual roots. Dual spiritual roots are geniuses for the Cangli Ling family and need to be cultivated with emphasis. However, in the past, 70% of dual spiritual roots came from the children of cultivators. And the probability of dual spiritual roots among ordinary mortals was very small. Arrange them and teach them well, especially these 3 children with dual spiritual roots. Ling Dingzong nodded and said seriously, nephew understands. On the other hand, the losses of the Fufang Jin family and the 8 families were also not small, especially the Fufang Jin family. Several foundation-building cultivators died in the battle. Now there are only 8 foundation-building cultivators alive, and there are more than 500 key training cultivators. It seems that there are fewer foundation-building cultivators than the Cangli Ling family, but in fact, the Fufang Jin family did not go all out. If they went all out, the number of foundation-building cultivators would increase a lot in a short period of time. The 2 families were about the same in strength. It would not be easy for the Fufang Jin family to destroy the Cangli Ling family, so it would be difficult for them to fight again in a short period of time. Of the 8 foundation-building families, only 1 family still had 3 foundation-building cultivators, 2 families still had 2 foundation-building cultivators each, and the remaining 5 families only had 1 foundation-building cultivator each. For the foundation-building families, the death of each foundation-building cultivator was a huge loss, which was enough to illustrate the heavy losses of the 8 families. All 10 families were licking their wounds, and the Liuyan Islands suddenly returned to a strange calm. Chapter 174 3 years passed in a flash, and the Cangli Ling family regained control of the islands. Time flies, and 3 years have passed quickly. Compared with 3 years ago, Qingkang Mountain has once again restored its appearance of a fairyland on Earth, with attics and palaces scattered among it, and the misty clouds make it even more mysterious and beautiful. In the area from the middle to the upper part of Qingkang Mountain, there are large tracts of spiritual fields, in which various first-level spiritual medicines are planted, full of vitality. The plains outside Qingkang Mountain are no longer a dilapidated scene. There are large tracts of green farmland with farmers busy working in between. People are coming in and out of the gates of several county towns, and people are moving on the streets in the city. There are peddlers hawking along the street stalls, or shops on both sides. All kinds of hawking sounds are endless. Everyone's face is full of smiles, which is a happy smile. It turned out that in order to better develop the Cangli Ling family, Ling Yuansheng launched an immigration plan 2 years ago. A total of 120,000 ordinary people were moved from the islands around Cangli Island to Cangli Island. After 2 years of recuperation, it has the appearance it has today. In 3 years, that is, 3 ascension conferences, a total of 38 children with spiritual roots were detected. At this time, the number of key training cultivators in the Cangli Ling clan exceeded 500, but nearly 120 were recruited in the last 3 or 4 years, and their cultivation was still very low. Ling Youdao was too seriously injured, and he was afraid that he would not have much life left. Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanqing, and Ling Dingshan were also seriously injured, and their strength was seriously damaged. The injuries of Ling Yuansheng, Ling Yuanqi, and Ling Youdao were stable and improving. I believe that in another year, they will be able to fully recover. Ling Jixin has completely sacrificed and refined the lower-grade magic weapon Zuinigan sword, and Zuanjia has also stabilized its own realm. The Cangli Ling clan is stepping out of the ruins after the war. Qingkang Mountain, in the meeting hall on the mountainside. Ling Jixin sat high at the top, and on the left below were Ling Yuangu, Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Yuanqing, Ling Dingshan, and Ling Yaoxin. On the right were Ling Yuansheng, Ling Dingai, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, and Ling Dingxi. The injuries of Ling Yuangu and the other 4 people could not be healed, so the 4 of them ended their retreat and decided to come out to do something for the family. Ling Jixin looked at the people below. After so many years, it was finally his turn to take charge of the Cangli Ling clan. However, the Cangli Ling clan at this time was no longer as prosperous as it used to be. It seemed to have strong strength, but it was actually just a big empty shell. He had always wanted to change the system that had lasted for more than 500 years in the Cangli Ling clan, but he couldn't do it at this time. because the system in his mind would harm the interests of many people, including many powerful elders. At present, the Cangli Ling clan was surrounded by external enemies and could not fight internally. Once he made drastic reforms, the internal contradictions would inevitably be intensified. In that case, the Cangli Ling clan would not be far from destruction. In order to continue the Cangli Ling clan, he had to go against his own heart and adhere to the original systems of the family. All he did was to be stable. The long-cherished wish of more than 100 years could only be buried in his heart with great reluctance. He was clearly capable of realizing his ideals, but he could not put them into action due to other reasons. There are so many pains in life, this is one of the most painful ones, right? In the past 3 years of Fen clan, the family's consumption has been increasing. We can't just sit back and eat up all the resources, right? He immediately said. You all tell me what you think. Ling Youdao immediately said, Uncle Jiu, my nephew's opinion is to restore the family's control over Cangli Island, Steely Island and other islands as soon as possible. Only in this way can the family obtain resources for cultivation continuously and alleviate the crisis of sitting back and eating up all the resources. As soon as this was said, it was quickly echoed by several elders such as Ling Yuanxiang and Ling Yuanking. Ling Jixin looked at Ling Yuansheng on the lower right and asked, Yuansheng, what do you think? Ling Yuansheng has been handling the affairs of Cangli Ling clan for many years and has never had any problems. He can be said to be mature and steady. He thinks he is not good at handling the affairs of the family, so he wants to hear Ling Yuansheng's opinion. Hearing this, Ling Yuansheng smiled slightly. Uncle Jiu, why don't we take a bigger step? Take a bigger step. When everyone was confused, Ling Yuansheng continued, Rongyang Island and Dengfeng Island have spiritual stone mines. Guanglu Island has Guanglu Market, which is the largest money-making place in Liuyan Islands. And these 3 treasures have already been a share of my Cangli Ling family. Since we have decided not to seal the clan anymore and want to resume activities in Liuyan Islands, why don't we take back what belongs to my Cangli Ling family? Ling Youdao said. 5th brother, will this arouse the vigilance of Fu Fangjin family? If the 9 families attack together, the family will be in danger. This is not only a problem that Ling Youdao is worried about, but also a problem that most of the elders present are worried about. Fear that if the step is too big, the 9 families will feel the crisis and attack together again, but at this time, the Cangli Ling family can no longer withstand a war of genocide. Ling Jixin looked at Ling Yuansheng in confusion, thinking that he was a steady person. Why would he say such a risky thing today? No, now the family has 2 top fighters, Uncle Jiu and Senior Zuanjia, and the family has the ability to fight on 2 fronts. Jin Honggai's strength is indeed strong, but the Fu Fangjin family can't find another one like him. After saying that, Ling Yuansheng smiled at everyone. Ling Jixin thought carefully and felt a sense of sudden enlightenment. Among the 3, his strength is the weakest, but even so, if he wants to escape, Jin Honggai will find it difficult to stop him. Not to mention the 3rd-level inferior demon Zuanjia, just relying on the tortoise shell on its back that is comparable to an inferior defensive magic weapon, it can survive when facing Jin Honggai. Ling Jixin smiled and laughed. Okay, it's time for the Cangli Ling clan to discuss that old man. Ling Yuanxiang still had some concerns. What if the 9 families unite and attack Cangli Island together? Without waiting for Ling Yuansheng to speak, Ling Jixin waved his hand and said, Yuanxiang, the situation you said will never happen again in a short time. Several families only have 1 foundation building cultivator, how dare they take risks again? Ling Yuansheng said, yes, they are not stupid, and it is impossible for them to sacrifice their own families to help the Fu Fangjin clan. To put it bluntly, the 8 families are for profit. Now that the family has Senior Zuanjia, they dare to bet on the Cangli Ling clan. After the meeting, the Cangli Ling clan immediately took action. Ling Jixin personally took Ling Dingshan and 50 key training cultivators to Rongyang Island, and Ling Yuangu, Ling Dingai, and Ling Dingshan took 30 family cultivators to Guanglufang City on Guanglu Island. Ling Yuanxiang and Ling Yuanqing led 10 Kigan monks and rushed to Dengfeng Island. Ling Dingxi led 10 Kigan monks to Cangli Island, and Ling Yuxin also led 10 Kigan monks to Steely Island. Before the Fu Fangjin family and other families could react, the Cangli Ling family had already taken back what belonged to them. Chapter 175 Ling Yuxin goes out. Whether it was the 9 families including the Fu Fangjin family or the scattered cultivators of the Liuyan Islands, They were all shocked by the sudden action of the Cangli Ling family. However, the Cangli Ling family came with such a strong momentum that even Ling Jixin was dispatched. Except for the Fu Fang Jin family, the other 8 families made concessions very tactfully. After all, the Cangli Ling family only reoccupied the island that belonged to them, and did not encroach on the interests of the 8 families. In addition, with the current strength of the Cangli Ling family, they gave in very readily. In a hall in the center of Fu Fang Island, a young man bent over and cupped his hands, reporting the situation of Rongayan Island to several elders of the Jin family. After a while, Jindan Clan, the head of the Jin family, slammed the table in front of him and said angrily, "Damn it, the Cangli Ling family bullied my Jin family without anyone to call for it. Pass on my order, immediately mobilize the family cultivators, send troops to Rongayan Island, and drive the Cangli Ling family back. Rongayan Island has a small spiritual stone mine. If the Cangli Ling family takes back half of the share, the speed of strength recovery will definitely increase greatly, which is not in line with the interests of the Fu Fang Jin family." Jin Daking's eyebrows jumped, and he said, "Patriarch, should we ask the old patriarch for instructions? With the strength of the Fu Fang Jin family alone, even if they could drive the Cangli Ling family out of Rongayan Island, they would inevitably pay a huge price." So Jin Daking thought it was better to forget it and focus on how to improve the overall strength of the family. Now that a war broke out with the Cangli Ling family, it would be impossible to destroy them, so there was no need to waste time on this. Hearing this, Jin Daquin slowly regained his composure and nodded and said, "Brother is right, I should indeed report to my father first." Immediately, Jin Daquin immediately left the hall, flew to the outside of Jin Songhai's retreat cave, and bowed his hands respectfully and said, "My son wants to see my father." The next moment, a voice came from the closed cave, "Well, come in." Before the voice fell, the closed cave stone door rumbled up, and Jin Daquin stepped in. The interior of the cave was very delicately decorated, just like during the day. Jin Songhai sat cross-legged on the old cushion in the middle, looking at Jin Daquin, who came in with his eyes open. "Tell me, what happened?" If it was just an ordinary trivial matter, it would naturally not bother him, a Jindan's Henrun. Today he came to see him specially, so something must have happened that could not be decided. "Dad, the people of Cangli Ling Clan have taken action. They sent out cultivators to reoccupy many islands including Rongayan Island." Jin Songhai asked, "Did they only reoccupy the original islands?" "Yes, Dad, we have not found that Cangli Ling Clan has occupied any more islands. Cangli Ling Clan needs to develop, and resources must be indispensable. It is normal for them to reoccupy those islands." Jin Daquin asked, "Dad, why don't we stop them? Let them go. As long as the strength of my Fu Fang Jin clan grows fast enough, no matter how many resources Cangli Ling Clan gets, it will be for us." "I understand. Well, go out, I'll take my leave." The scattered cultivators of Liuyan Islands were originally prepared to watch the show, but the development of the matter obviously deviated from their expectations. Fu Fang Jin clan did not do anything about Cangli Ling clan's behavior, but only strengthened Jin clan's power on Rongayan Island and Guanglu Island. In this way, Cangli Ling clan took back the islands that should have belonged to them without bloodshed. At this time, the situation in Liuyan Islands was temporarily stable, and it was impossible for a war to break out again in a short period of time. As the Cangli Ling clan reoccupied the original islands, a steady stream of spiritual stones, ores, and various spiritual materials and spiritual medicines were transported back to Cangli Island, which greatly alleviated the crisis of Cangli Ling clans eating up all the resources. Steely Island is very close to Cangli Island, only 83 miles away. The island grows a first-level high-quality spiritual plant, steely wood. Its hard texture is an important material for building sea vessels. A very small number of them have broken through to the second level and can be used to refine spiritual tools. It is one of the main sources of income for Cangli Ling Clan. The person sitting on this island is Ling Youdao, the current top genius of Cangli Ling Clan. Elder, the ironwood has been loaded onto a ship and will be shipped back to the clan soon, Ling Youdao said. "Well, you guys guard Steely Island, I'm going to go back to the clan." Hearing this, the man assured, "Don't worry, Elder, the island is there and the people are there. Steely Island is only 83 miles away from Cangli Island. If anything unexpected happens, support from Cangli Island will arrive in a cup of tea." So Ling Youdao dared to return to King Mountain without worry. Immediately, Ling Youdao flew to Cangli Island on his sword, and the ship full of ironwood was left far behind. Qingkang Mountain, in the meeting hall. Yaoxin meets fifth grandpa. Ling Yuansheng looked at Ling Yaoxin, who had just come in surprise, and asked, "Yaoxin, why are you back?" "Fifth grandpa, my grandson wants to go out for some experience. You are very talented and are the hope of the family. You really shouldn't be trapped in Liuyan Islands, a small place the size of a palm. You should go out to see the outside world. Only after going through all kinds of hardships can you grow up and go further on the path of immortality. The situation in Liuyan Islands is stable now, and there will be no war in the short term. It's just right for you to go out for experience now." Ling Yaoxin nodded and said, "My grandson thinks so too, so I brought up the matter of experience at this time." He immediately said, "Go with peace of mind. You don't have to worry about Steely Island. Fifth grandpa will make his own arrangements." "Grandson, thank you." Fifth grandpa, on the top of Qingkang Mountain, on a cliff, the wind blowing from the sea hit Ling Yaoxin's body, and his aqua blue robe rustled. Then he saw that he did not point his two fingers at the sword, but waved forward, and the broken water sword behind him flew out, drawing a ray of white light. Ling Yaoxin jumped onto the broken water sword and looked back at Qingkang Mountain. He immediately said, "Go." The broken water sword carried him and turned into a white light, quickly heading outside Cangli Island, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After Ling Yaoxin left, Ling Yuansheng ordered Ling Dingai to guard Steely Island instead. Ling Dingai, who is on Guanglu Island, rushed to Steely Island as soon as he received the order. Time passed quickly, and a year passed in the blink of an eye. Ling Yuansheng and Ling Yuanqi broke through the barriers one after another, and their injuries were completely recovered. In this way, Ling Yuansheng had a helper and didn't have to be as busy every day as before. At night, on the top of Qingkang Mountain, in a cave in the 7-room courtyard, Ling Youdao sat cross-legged on a cushion in the center of the cave, while Mu Yanran sat cross-legged on another cushion 2 feet away. In the past 4 years, she would heal Ling Youdao's injuries every once in a while, then rest for a few months before continuing to heal him. Ling Youdao took a deep breath, stopped practicing, and slowly opened his eyes. "Yanran." Upon hearing this, Mu Yanran suddenly opened her eyes and said in surprise, "Brother Youdao, you're finally healed." 5 plus 7,520,000 chapters. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.